This is Best Ball Whenever, and I am here with a data scientist this afternoon, Billy Jones here at SportsVizBJ here on Twitter is where you can find Billy. Of course, he has his own YouTube channel as well, which I just discovered last night as I was trying to find the right thumbnail for Billy. Discovered his YouTube channel, started watching some of his shows that he's done, and really sharp guy. Obviously you should go check out Billy's channel if you haven't already done so, although Billy was just telling me he's getting married this summer, so not going to be doing a ton of NFL content this summer, but still go follow Billy's YouTube. Billy, how is the wedding planning going, and how are you this afternoon?
It's going good. I'm the age where all my friends are getting married and like my cousins are getting married. So I got multiple to attend plus my own, which is good because every time go to a wedding, there's like different pieces I want to pull into like, oh, I like that. So I'm doing
Yeah.
that. But it's been good. We try to like space it out. And I'm very much a planner, just like I am with how I do best ball too. I set a portfolio plan of what I kind of want it to look like at the end and I track towards that.
Nice.
Um, but yeah, it's going pretty good.
Glad to hear that. Yeah, I am a little bit past the age of like constant weddings. Like these days, it's usually one or two per year, as opposed to like
Hmm.
5-10 years ago, and I was like, all right, we have a wedding every weekend. How are we going to make this work? Now I'm kind of past that age, but I think I'm getting close to the age where it's going to be like the next generation. I mean, not quite yet. My oldest nephew is about to turn 18, and I've got like family, friends, kids, that kind of stuff. Maybe we'll get the
Hmm.
next generation coming along pretty soon. But I think I've got a little gap here where it's going to be probably just a couple weddings per year in the short term. But yeah, that's very exciting. Getting ready for your own wedding. The other thing that, of course, we need to look at before we jump into a draft, which we are going to jump in, do a couple best ball mania drafts, is Underdog did just release a couple new formats today that we have not yet seen, and I have those pulled up here, and we can. I don't know if Billy, we talked. You haven't really had a chance to dive in too much. Obviously, they just dropped them. You are a data guy, so maybe you're going to have to examine these a little bit further. But let's talk about these contests just to start. So the sprint is the first one we see here. 2 out of 12 advance after the regular season, which is weeks 1 through 14, just like every other best ball contest. And then it's cumulative scoring for weeks 15 through 17 to crown the winner. So there are no pods after the regular season. The regular season is still the same. You're with the people you draft with for the first 14 weeks. And then weeks 15 to 7 is just cumulative scoring. It's $50 to enter. I missed that one. I didn't see that it was $50 to enter. That's kind of interesting. $100,000 to first. Billy, what do you think of this contest?
So what it does is it's like the week 17 is all that matters. The conversation is kind of taken out, but it is like if you can analyze in aggregate 3 weeks of what the who has like an optimal schedule, which some people have already started to do. I think that there is like an angle there. Um, I did see the $50, and I'm curious if they're going to have like a mini sprint drop at some point
Right.
because I did. My initial reaction was like that may be like somewhat unappealing to certain individuals, but it does definitely look cool, and it's like a different wrinkle on like of the two new tournaments. The one being like the season long. Okay, kind of we can kind of get that, but this one is like it does definitely have a little bit of game theory in there that is new.
Yeah. No, I like it. I mean, it's one of those like, if I had to choose between this and just like regular Best Ball Mania format where you have new pods every week, I would choose that format. I think I preferred that overall to the 3 week playoff. But I'm going to play some of this. Like I think it will be kind of fun. Just like regardless of how you do in week 15, you have a 3 week sweat. Like it just gives you the prolonged enjoyment. I guess if you make the playoffs, you're not going to be just knocked out right away. You're going to have a few weeks to try and get to the top there. Of course, you might be fighting from behind pretty quickly, but it is kind of fun in that way, and it is a different way to approach this kind of draft. Also, it is, like you said, it's not just week 17 is all that matters, or the new thing, week 16 is all that matters. It is weeks 15 or 15 through 17, which is kind of fun in its own way. Do you think you're going to be I know you haven't dug into the data at all, and I know you're a data guy, but my inclination would be things like the NFC North thing. So we have multiple teams playing each other from the Vikings, Packers, Bears, and then remove the Lions, throw in the Seahawks. You get like a bunch of different games where they play each other. Does that become more appealing, do you think, in this kind of format where you have 3 playoff weeks, where you're guaranteed to get all 3 weeks, or does it not? Is it kind of the same bet as the weeks, the regular best ball format in your mind?
I think that like my initial was like, okay, big onslaughts of teams that just dominate through a stretch are going to be like the play here. Right? Last year the Lions were awesome, and we saw that in the that work through like the best ball mania scoring. So like I feel like that same exact concept would work here too. So that's probably what I think would you'll see a little bit more like a little bit bigger team stacks
Okay.
is what's going on here. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that makes sense to me. And then the other new contest format is if you've ever played on Drafters. I think it's the exact same format as Drafters, so it's called the Marathon here. It's just cumulative scoring for weeks 1 through 17. So you draft with 12 people, and then once you're done drafting, you're no longer in that pot. You're immediately in the full contest with however many teams there are in the contest. In total, you're competing with everybody for all 17 weeks, and then it's just cumulative scoring for the entire season. 300,000 at first, 150,000 a second. Basically, the exact same format as Drafters, which, I have never fully enjoyed it to the same extent that I've enjoyed like regular best ball. But I think that is for me because I've never had success at it. I've never really had a competitive team in those final weeks of the season. Like I can see, like, we all talk about like, well, this isn't nearly as fun, but I'm like, I bet it's fun for the people who are competitive at the top of the draft. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to write off this kind of format. I'm sure I'll do some of these as well. What do you think of this, Billy?
This feels like a format where like the pick the best plays becomes like ever more paramount. That you're gonna pick the right guys and you're gonna nail the later parts as well as the earlier parts and just kind of hit that optimal roster. Um, I do. I don't know. I some from a data perspective, I'm not like out on solo QB, and I feel like if there's going to be a format that does it, it's this because those elite quarterbacks just like can score what in aggregate three late quarterbacks would do, and you can get two late bullets out of what would be a big hit. Because if you're going to hit the nuts, it's going to have to come like through like every one of your picks is going to have to be somewhat relevant in scoring. So um, I don't know, but I thought I like the $15 price point. I think that makes that's like pretty approachable, and then when you're doubling your money at the lowest point. So I think that was really good the way they set it up.
That's interesting to me that you say that you are not out on solo QB. think that's kind of a hot take, even among data people. Like I feel like the data people that I've seen post about it on Twitter have been pretty anti going solo at the onesies, just from a like for regular best ball, from an optionality standpoint of just like having multiple ways to get there, and like it gives you better odds of like not just having the same quarterback as everybody else in week 17 if you have two and it's alternating who does well. So I'm curious to hear why, or have you done research that has led you to be not opposed to the one quarterback, or is that just sort of like the way your kind of philosophy without having really dug into the data?
So I have done a little research on it. Something that I'm trying to figure out how like to properly write it up. But from like a quarterback perspective, like those top guys can get you spikes at a pretty high rate, and as well as in aggregate, as I said, like some of like three or later quarterbacks or even two of the better ones would um, like combine to what would one quarterback would do, like a Josh Allen would have did last year. But then like the argument that it can't work, there was like Josh Allen teams with Ryan Tannehill in BBM4 last year finals. So like you didn't use him at any point during the playoffs. So the fact that it hasn't really made noise from a playoff perspective, like when you have like roughly 1% or less than 1% of the whole population doing it, but there is maybe some substance to it. Like I don't know, I'm not like writing it off yet as
Okay.
an option. I think that there is like certain quarterbacks that have like a profile that can make it work. It's just like when you think about summary data, if anyone that's doing it with like a quarterback that's not a top three quarterback, it's going to be like, okay, why are you doing that? That's probably not the smart way to play this. Like so, I'm not out on it yet, I guess is the way I would put it.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. Saying that you're not out on it is different than like endorsing that as a strategy that you
Yeah.
should be trying. It's totally different. Yeah, and it's not something that I have ever done, and I've heard, I think I think people at Fantasy Point, some of them were into the idea of trying it with like Mahomes and Kelsey, like just going one of each of them. It's not something that I have done, not something that I think I'm going to do, but that is at least interesting to think. Maybe there are arguments for it. Um, Copy Paste States asked, did they release it? No. Hope from Underdog said that they are releasing both of these new contests tomorrow morning, so we can look forward to these tomorrow. Um, Kurt, also a Spike Week guy, says, I've looked at Billy's
Mm-hmm.
raw data research on quarterback, also not out on solo quarterback on a small percentage of teams. So it sounds like you're on kind of the same page there, just not something you want to
Yeah,
do a
we're
ton of, and
friends.
maybe try it a little. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me that you guys are friends. Um, All right, so we are going to just hop into a couple best ball mania drafts here, and of course, I haven't been telling people this at the beginning of every stream, Billy, but we split the team, whatever the winnings are. You don't have to pay
Yeah.
me to be part of here. You pay me with your guest appearance on my show, and then your payment is 50% of whatever we win. As I was telling Daigle yesterday, I'm probably not going to send you a Venmo unless we get to the finals. But if you really want to get a payout, if we get $50 and you want to get 12.50, taking out the $25 entry fee, then I'll send you the Venmo. But yeah, we will split whatever winnings. And I'm going to make you send me the shameful Venmo request unless we get to the finals. Then I will send it straight to you.
That's fair. This is the year like of all years that you're doing it, this is the year where you're giving up the most
I
because of
know,
how
yeah.
flat it is.
Exactly, by far, giving up the most. But it's worth it for the for having people on my streams, because a lot more fun for
Mhm.
me to have people with me as I'm doing these drafts on stream. All right, so we're gonna jump right into a BBM draft. I haven't done my Greyhound yet, and I'm realizing I probably need to do that today if I want to get it in. That's gonna be
Mhm.
filling pretty quickly.
What is it at right now?
I looked this morning, it was at like 55%, so I'm guessing it's 60 something by now.
Yeah, it says it's still 55. You have to think of single entry, like those that got really excited are already in there. And then
True.
it's probably like a really fast fill, and then like it's much slower kind of throughout. And then there'll be a nice spike at the end for the people that need to get it in when it's like 90%.
Yeah,
So
guys like me will get in too late probably. Yeah,
yeah.
that's a good call. Probably people who really need to get in did already get in. Um, Seeing a note on Eric Gray. Eric Gray mixing in with the first team offense. Uh-oh. That would be, I think that's the Giants, right? I don't think I've drafted
Hmm.
Eric Gray yet.
Okay, so I'm glad I'm here because I have, and like not a small amount.
Oh, really? Okay.
So yeah, I think it was Pat Thorman who had a post on Twitter about how Eric Gray was like running with like the pass catching like unit, and not just really like it's like the second option, but like running with the ones as the catching unit, and that's like an interesting blurb at this time of year when you're like okay, a guy is getting an opportunity to play with the starters in a role, and so like that's the kind of things that like maybe could be a late round hit for last year, and he's getting drafted at probably like not 2%. I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't really follow the ETR one. I'm not an ETR subscriber, but like I would bet that his current draft percentages are really low.
Let's see if he's ranked by ETR. He does not have a rank in the ETR. I do have the ETR rankings in here now. So Eric
Mm-hmm.
Gray does not. My guess is that will change after some news blurbs. I think they're adjusting pretty regularly. But yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
think he's not being drafted all that much. He is a name that I've heard on streams a little bit here or there. I've heard people throw out the name Eric Gray. I think mostly as a like maybe a reason to not go all in on Tyrone Tracy kind of a thing. But I've been drafting a ton of Devin Singletary. Do you think that's should I be concerned as a Devin Singletary drafter? Do you think Eric Gray has a real shot of taking a good percent of his carries
Probably
or,
not.
or
I mean,
looks?
like the what was the news? All right, he's playing like a again like running with the ones as like in this like secondary role.
Right.
Um, I don't. It doesn't seem like that is the Singletary role seems to be in question here.
Yeah.
It's just more. It's like who's got the second role on this team, but it may not even be that like awesome of a team environment from a scoring perspective.
Yeah. So here's let's make our pick first. Do you have a preference with this pick? We got Amon-Ra, Bijan, Puka, Brees Hall, AJ Brown. Anybody you like here?
I think let's go St. Brown. I know it's kind of the chalky way to do it,
Yeah.
but I have been like so like I think I'm going to be like oh I don't know. My current plan is to go 100% zero RB with my portfolio, and I got a couple reasons for that. But the one of them being that while everyone like does say that they really like zero RB, that it does take like essentially 7 or 8 picks of commitment to actually get there. And it's so that when you look in your drafts, I bet you're maybe seeing one person that in the seventh round does not have a running back. And so it's just a lot lower owned than people would really truly assume, based on how like it's like an agreed upon like way to win or you can win. So for me, what I'm able to do with I don't have to max these tournaments, but say, I think it was the work that I did, the first one I write up I did for Spike Week through 7 rounds last year. It was like about like 2.5% of the tournament had zero running backs, which is really really low. And it's
Yeah.
going to increase for sure this year. But say that doubles to five. That's in a 150 portfolio. That's really not that many bullets that are people doing there. So if I do 45 of them, like I'm going to be way over what like one person's portfolio of zero RB teams is. So I'm just like, sure, am I giving up like Christian McCaffrey? But like I guess it's just like I'm trying to like lean into a certain angle, and it's just like I think it's just like yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Yeah,
So that zero running backs through 7 rounds is the way. I think that's the way Spike Week defines zero RB, right? Like
I
zero
think
through.
the way Spike Week defines it is like not selecting one of the top 24 running backs, so it is
Okay.
somewhat flexible year to year. I did it for like the piece just because I was like, look, like just setting like easy boundaries made it easy, like kind of
Yeah.
like, oh, that's easy to comprehend. But I do think that like I want the goal for me is to have an advantage at wide receivers, have an advantage at quarterback and tight end, which do exist. Like they're available. You don't have to pay up. Like the top quarterbacks go in round four now. I
Right.
love it.
Yeah.
So like it just like fits the way the structure that I want to be drafting. Um, and if I'm going to be doing some like running backs, I probably want to do it like the higher guys. I want to do it late so I know they're healthy. Um,
Okay.
at least that's where my mind's at.
All right. So we have Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now we could do the 49ers thing as the Detroit San Francisco Week 17, or just take one of these best available. Do you have preference on any of these receivers?
Do you like Malik Neighbors?
Yeah, I like Malik Neighbors.
Okay, let's do him, and I'm gonna explain why in a second. So I
Okay.
believe that this like starting. Can you show the board again?
Yep.
Starting after like Drake London, like Olave through like pick like 35 receivers is just one chunk of players. And I mean, they're all good. They're all going to have like individual game ceiling, probably not as much of a ceiling as the guys ahead of them. Good floor too. That's why they are what they are right there. But so like I'm like, and that there's been discourse about like no one in the second round belongs there. So like, why don't you just take people in the third round?
Right.
That you feel good about them in the third round, but they're not great in the second round. But if you did that with everyone else in the pool, it's like this could be like feel good about them in the third round. It's just like a whole like mismatch. So what I want to do here is I want to set up. I actually tweeted it earlier.
I
Is
saw you tweet that
where
earlier. Yeah.
yeah, I want to set up Neighbors, Pittman, and then Anthony Richardson in round five. I think that when you look at the finals, like week 17, that's going to be like an awesome game to build around. The Colts were awesome to build around last year as to play against. Um, Neighbors should be ascending at the end of the year, and you get the number one like receiving option and with a quarterback who I think has a real chance at QB1. So I don't know. I think it's like an interesting way to play it that's not going to be that common.
And this is something that I assume you would not do if you didn't consider this to be one long tier. Like if you had Neighbors and Devonta Adams in a different tier, then you would just take Devonta Adams. But because to you this is all just one long tier of wide receivers, then that makes this more of a viable strategy. Is that is that accurate that you wouldn't do this strategy if you thought that there were different tiers here? It's basically because you consider this one long tier of receivers.
Absolutely. And I like that crossing tiers is what you don't want to do. That's why I think every ranking set should be like come with tiers too. And you kind of really have like this like understanding that you can just move whoever you want within that tier. And some do. I think that some of the better ones. So this is where I like to go Pittman. Yeah.
Nice.
And that's really clean right now.
Yeah.
Kittle's an awesome way to come back with this on that Detroit game.
Yep.
You could go Jameson Williams too, who's go, like screaming up the board right now as well, and just kind
Yeah.
of consolidate around Detroit.
I kind of think that that was a Lowell's bump. Maybe I'm giving that too much credit, but it felt to me like immediately after Brian Hooper on Lowell's mentioned, he was like, "Well, shouldn't Jameson Williams be going higher if like he has this huge
Mm-hmm.
ceiling? Shouldn't he be going higher?" And then like immediately I was like, "That's a good point. Maybe I'll start drafting him a little bit more once I'm in those 90s." And he was just never available like immediately right then. So maybe I'm giving that too much credit. Maybe influencers don't have as much influence as I think, but I sort of felt like it was like maybe that does. Like maybe just the people who are drafting right now are the ones who are watching every piece of Pete Overzet content out there, or at least there's one of them in every draft, and they're reaching for Jameson Williams. I thought that was kind of funny that I've barely been able to get him since Brian brought him up specifically on Knowles.
Do you follow Coach Speak Index on Twitter
Oh
as
yeah,
well?
yeah, yep,
Yeah, they've had like obviously very positive like nuggets about JMO too. So I think it's like a combination of like in the whole industry. There's like a lot of us been like, we're gonna move these guys up now. Okay, let's go do that. And then they like, it's okay, it's now time. And then we all have the same news, and we're all just gonna move them up the boards ever so slightly, not taking them too early, but it's like we all know it's gonna happen.
yeah,
So yeah, I think it is interesting that like this is so last year was my first year playing best ball. I really got in because of the data was like the best ball data bowl was like available, like a way to
yeah,
play with like fantasy sports data. I was like, this is really cool.
yeah.
But then this now I feel like this year has been like I now understand it all.
Yeah, now you have a year to kind of comprehend everything that
Mm-hmm.
you were looking at last year. All right, so we can should we wait until our Jazz makes their pick and then we can. I don't know if you have somebody specific in mind for this pick. I know you had somebody in mind for round 5, but see what our Jazz does.
Yeah, I do have someone in mind. I didn't think he was going to take him. So let's go ahead. I like Trey McBride here. And what this
Okay.
does, it gives us two reasons. One, we get to lean into that elite tight end that a proper zero RB, I think, needs because you're going to be creating an advantage that way. And then two, it gives us a little optionality if someone wants to be rude to us and and takes Anthony Richardson. We
Yep.
now have like the Kyler Murray out, so getting like someone who I still think has like that really high ceiling, great price too on him as well. So
Agreed.
I think that there's two positives from this, both the player and the like structure as well as like the optionality.
What about so let's say we get Richardson at 54, 78 comes and Kyler's still on the board. At that point, do you consider taking Kyler there, or are you like, no, I already have my elite quarterback. I don't want a second elite quarterback. How do you feel about taking two quarterbacks within the first 7 rounds?
So I don't hate it. I mean, like again, like the if you look at historical data, there were 2 years, BBM2 and BBM3, that was awesome. Like it was one part of the what was the best structures you could have built through early rounds. But then last year was an absolute disaster,
Yeah,
and because of like players got hurt and it wasn't like they were also priced up so high. Like it just was a combination of this really bad situation. So like I'm not out on it. Like if you're going to do a zero RB, which we're building towards, not everyone we draft off the first 6 rounds can even hit our lineup. If we go 8 rounds with zero running backs, not like
there
they're
he
never,
goes.
not all those players can do it. So yeah, someone was being rude, but we have options now.
Yeah,
And Marvin Harrison all the way on the wrong side of the board. So they're gonna someone if they want to take him from us, they're gonna have to do it at like pick 61.
yeah.
Um, or wherever they are, 60, 62, and that doesn't feel good.
Yeah. All right. So now, as far as ADP goes, it would be Jaden Reed, Hollywood Brown for wide receivers. We could take Mahomes, and I don't know. I don't think we Xavier Worthy later or something.
Nah, let's do Hollywood Brown. I think that like you can play the best like offenses and just play their best players. Um, and like so like I'm sure we're not like hyper correlated around week 17 here, but we can get someone from Pittsburgh like
We
that.
can always go Najee Harris. We can go Jalen
Yeah,
Warren.
we like those players. Like
Yeah,
on this build, they fit so perfectly.
yeah.
So Um, I think that in hit like that's a price that I think is not going to last. Like,
On the Pittsburgh running backs.
well, Pittsburgh running backs and Hollywood Brown. Like,
Oh,
I mean, like he's an interesting player. He's got like going to get all the opportunity. Like, we always say like we like price in when player like the Rashi Rice like suspension week. It's going to change the ADP. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it is.
yeah,
So, I think it's a good share of Hollywood Brown.
yeah. I think so too. I think I'm happy taking him here. I don't know. I think I agree with you. Like we always assume that people are pricing in the news that we expect, but then it always turns out that people were not pricing it in, and you still see
Hmm.
major jumps on players that you're like, oh, I thought that had been priced in. So you're probably right that we will see Hollywood Brown. I don't know what his upside is in terms of like ADP. Like I don't see him getting into the fourth round, but maybe he will. Maybe I'm totally wrong about that because people just want to buy in on the Chiefs. Maybe that becomes like the chalk 4-5 turn is Mahomes and Hollywood Brown or something like that.
Well, how do you play Mahomes if you the way he where he's drafted right now? Like he kind of sits at the 4 or 5 turn. He might leak out a little bit. Like if he leaks out, you get him with Kelsey, and then you get the nice stack. But if he sits on the other side of the board, like there's no clean way to do it, um, other than Rashi Rice. Which again, if he gets the suspension, it's going to feel even more uncomfortable. So
Yeah.
I think there might be some like just like stacking gravity that could happen as
No, I think
well.
you're right. I think you are right about that. For a while, it seemed I think Mahomes has maybe fallen a little bit recently, and obviously there are
Hmm.
ways to check this. I don't know. I felt like for a while he was creeping up towards the 2-3 turn, and now he's sort of fallen back. Maybe he just has a lot of volatility in where he goes. Because I've taken him at the 2-3 turn before, like done the Mahomes Kelsey double click there, but then more recently I've taken him at like mid 50s around pick 60. So it seems like
Hmm.
there's a lot of volatility in where he goes right now.
Yeah, and I have like a thread I put out on every Friday that
Kittle
does like
goes.
the ADP moves.
Oh, you do?
So yeah, and that so it's like ADP moves, and then I also it's like I have like this chart that's called like a comet chart that you can see where it started and where it is now. It's like it's pretty neat. I like how that looks. We'll show it to you at some point. We're
Yeah, yeah.
not in the middle of a draft.
Not yeah. We'll wait till after the draft.
Yeah.
So we did lose
Um.
Kittle also,
Mhm.
which again,
But that's
not the end of
fine.
the world. Yeah, we have Trey McBride also. So all right. So by ADP, if we're still going wide receiver, it'd be Romo Dunze, Chris Godwin, Keon Coleman, Brian Thomas. Could go down to Evan Ingram if we want another tight end.
I think that those four are great. I mean, you can make the narrative for a variety of different ones. I think let's do Brian Thomas. He's been a guy I've been clicking a lot. I think part of that is because I also like clicking Tennessee. A
Okay.
ton those receivers, Hopkins and Ridley. I think that is like again, Coach Speak is Index is a guy who I kind of like. I do think it is really good information.
Yeah.
What the coach says that they're going to try to do this year, like okay, let's lean into that. I mean, this
Right.
is much, so as much as I love the data part, like the strategy that they want to deploy, it doesn't matter what data I want to do.
Right.
Like if like whatever yard per route run statistic is awesome, but the coach doesn't want to play the dude, like he's not going to score points.
Right. Right.
So so that the Titans are apparently supposed to throw the ball a ton this year. So this is partially trying to think towards that Week 17 matchup, and if we can get Hopkins on the flip side of that. But
Yeah.
then Murray, I don't know. So I'm just trying to build options here.
Yeah. No, I love that. I'm always trying to build out options for like, okay, I've got a couple guys that I'd love to get with this next pick. Sometimes you're
Hmm.
put in a position like this is one where I'm like, kind of feel like it's a toss up who would prefer. I think my lean would be Murray just because we already have 5 receivers, but like you
Yeah.
can't really go wrong here.
If we had do a wide receiver, it would be a 6 wide receiver build, and we're going to cut it off.
Yeah.
But I do think that the Kyler Murray thing is it gets us into the tier of quarterbacks that with the upside that I think is important if you're going to build this way. So
Right.
I think let's just go ahead and do that if the board will let us,
Yeah.
which they don't really have much incentive to not. I mean,
To not let
yeah.
us. Yeah. Here's another major. Here's a piss boy. All right, we
Hmm.
can go Kyler here. All right, I'm feeling good about this. So we have quarterback Kyler Murray at wide receivers. We have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Malik Neighbors, Michael Pittman, Hollywood Brown, Brian Thomas, and at tight end we have Trey McBride. Nice start there for us on our zero RB build. So we have reached the zero RB threshold. We made it through 7 rounds, 0 running backs so far. So now we can draft running backs to our heart's content. I wanted to touch on some of these copy paste dates. Asked, y'all think Waddle got overpaid relative to the wide receiver market? I think Waddle's really good, so I don't really. Don't really think he was overpaid. I also, Jim says they were kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place. With Waddle, he hasn't been able to stay healthy, but if they waited, they were at risk of market continuing to increase. Do you have any thoughts on the Waddle contract?
Well, it just like also comes down to Tyreek Hill is not young. I mean,
Yeah,
Waddle is a short term and long term plan for them, and so that what that does is kind of builds that like relationship long term. They get them at a good price, and like it's the speed is just what they do. So I would just like I don't know. You don't mess with an offense that works, and he's
yeah,
a part of it. So you just kind of let it keep rolling. And if you need to say he's like your premium wide receiver two for forever, I feel like the rate that he got paid is like you're gonna look back at it and be like totally fine with it if they win the way that they should or could.
yeah. Agreed. I'm fine with it. I see Wilmo here does the Najee Jalen double tap on the corner. So if we were hoping to, I was hoping to get one of those Pittsburgh running backs to us at 91. They both
Mm-hmm.
go ahead of or at ADP. So, oftentimes you can get them at 91, but not here. How do you feel about this double tap, the Najee Harris, Jalen Warren, both running backs for Pittsburgh on the same team?
I don't do it much. I mean, like this is the price where it's okay. Um, I just feel like I would rather play it through like there's like a couple really good ways to play like contingent upside, but also like known volume in this range. Like Cincinnati's got two options, Tennessee's got two options. Like I would rather just play one of the Pittsburgh guys, and then like kind of those are the three backfields that I'm like every draft. Give me some like share of like maybe two or three, or if I can get three of three, I think that's great. So like I love Zach Moss here, but I also love Jonathan Brooks. I don't know where you want to go.
I feel like in zero RB, it's a little bit tougher to take Brooks as your first running back. Um, we could do. I mean, it sounds like he might
Let's
be
do
healthy for
that.
the start of the year.
It
Let's do
does. I
Brooks.
mean,
Yeah,
yeah, let's do Brooks. Well, and I think that there's a couple points here. Like, if he's going to be talented, it doesn't matter when he scores. Like, if he scores big points for us, and then if he's going to be back weighted, then that's even better. Um, and that's our first pick. We can build in some like
yeah,
known volume
true.
in this range with zero RB upside. We're going to get well, this isn't going to be a five or six running back team. It six maybe, but like definitely probably more leaning towards seven. And my favorite build with the zero RB is 2-7-7-2 because those, especially because we got good, um, uh, like onesies. Like you can just
Yeah,
you get like a whole position player back, like on your roster to the skill players, which are so impactful to winning.
yeah. I like that we start with Kyler and Trey McBride here. So now I'm trying to think where we're leaning towards. So like as far as quarterbacks, we could wait a while for like I guess we could take Daniel Jones if we wanted to. We could take Jared Goff potentially. We also do have the Trevor Lawrence out. So we have some options at quarterback in rounds like 11, 12 potentially. Just trying to think through how we're gonna land this if we want to go 2-7-7-2. We probably we got to figure out where we can take another quarterback. But we're probably going to take. I mean, it sounds like that would be two more receivers. So we have ways of getting there
Yeah, I think the quarterback I'm like relatively comfortable. Like
because we already have
um,
Kyler.
we have multiple outs to getting guys to land to us in this range. I don't think we need it here.
No.
Um, I think that there are two names that I mean any of the running backs to get back on like that track of like the volume. But then also I really like Brock Bowers. I think that he's drafted to be somewhere between a wide receiver and a tight end. And
Okay, there
there
he
he goes.
goes.
Is he watching?
Yeah.
But I think that he's like at the way when he first was like when the tournament first
Wait,
started.
do you have a pick that you like here? I assume a running
Um,
back.
you want to roll with Javante?
We can
You're
roll with
talking
Javante.
about just like kind of boring volume.
Yeah, he is that guy. I feel like I'm less confident in Javante's volume than some people are, just because I've heard the rumblings of he's not guaranteed to get touches this year, and I've been buying
Mm-hmm.
more into the end of the draft Denver guys in Jaleel McLaughlin, Audric Estime. I think I have a couple of shares of Blake Watson, but he probably he's still the likeliest to get volume there. So yeah, I think he makes sense there.
Yeah, and I think that it's going to, if it's going to be like timed, it'll be timed earlier in the
True.
season, and it'll be like, or like we gave you the opportunity. Like it's now been a year and a half since you've been like healthy again. Like last year, he was fresh off a big injury, and he was like, I think we're like dinging him for the doing what we expected,
Yeah,
and so now it's time to let him kind of properly bounce back. So that's why I'm like, I'm not wouldn't call him say I'm like super excited, but I do think that the price is correct.
agreed. Yeah, I agree. The price is about where it should be because he has the upside to be a bell cow who should be going in like the fourth round or something like that. And the downside, of course, is he could be not the not the even RB1 on his
Mm-hmm.
team, or he could be an inefficient RB1. There's definitely wide range of outcomes there. I think for Javonte Williams. So, but man, Dak Prescott fell all the way to 105 here to the Jake Ferguson drafter.
Yeah, he's the type of guy who's like, if you know what you're doing, there's just no incentive to take him solo, and so he can just kind of let him fall. And I'm always wondering like because where CD Lamb sits, you're never gonna get him like in the middle of the board. You're always gonna have him at the front side. So like that's a long way to let him to fall. It's just like it takes a lot of conviction to do that, and I don't know if
Yeah,
I always have it.
I definitely don't always have the conviction, yeah, to let my guys fall. This is interesting. Brandon Cooks goes at 111. I wonder if this was a spite pick, if he wanted Dak Prescott or something, or I don't know. That's interesting. All right, I assume another running back here would be the call. We do have, Trevor Lawrence is someone we could take. We could take Josh Palmer and build out for another option at quarterback for the next turn. What do you think here?
I actually think that Trevor Lawrence is a great play here.
Just take him,
Um,
get it out of the way.
yeah, I mean, unless the problem with Trevor Lawrence, I do sometimes feel like there's an option to get him back, but I
Yeah,
we didn't like look at the board, which is what it is. But the he's the type of guy you got to see who's there as well because he's more like pocket centric. Even though I do think he has more like running ability than people give him credit for.
he ran a lot, like he scored a lot of rushing touchdowns in college, as I recall, and I feel like he has not run as much in the pros as I was kind of hoping he would. So I don't give him a ton of credit for his running in the pros, but I still have that in the back of my mind of like, but what if what if he turns it on? What if they
Yeah.
decide to start letting him run a little bit more than he has? And I could be wrong too about his pro running. I haven't dug in too deep. That's just been my impression has been he has not run as much as I wanted him to in the pros. At least his first couple of years he wasn't.
Well, there's the runners, there's the non-zeros, and then there's like the absolute zeros. I
Yeah,
think he's at least in the non-zero category.
agreed. Yeah, not like a running. Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right. He's not a running quarterback, but he's also not giving you zero. That's just right, just right.
Hmm.
All right, so we've closed out our quarterback room. We need one more tight end, and then we're probably building toward 2 7 7 2. But to some extent, we're kind of just taking it as it comes, taking what the board gives us.
Hmm.
We are sitting at two running backs still, so this would be a good spot to potentially grab another. And I see Singletary. That was the one downside to taking Lawrence there is that there is a chance that this tier of running back closes out. I think. Well, let's see what's on the board here. I think we've got some good options here. I like Gus Edwards quite a bit. I think Chase Brown is also a cromulent pick. Do you have a preference between any of these running backs?
I mean, this is a great range. Let's go with Gus Edwards. I heard a take that like you're gonna hate when Gus Edwards falls into the end zone like 11 times this
Yeah,
year, and I was just like, I
I'm
am
not.
gonna hate that.
I'm
I'm
not
gonna
gonna hate.
hate
I'm
that.
I'm gonna love it. I'm gonna love it so much because I've been drafting a ton of Gus Edwards because that
I-
because I kind of just think like they're going to be running a lot. I think he's probably going to be the guy, and he's probably going to be the goal line guy on a team that wants to run. So yeah, I've actually been
mhm.
been drafting a lot of Gus Edwards, and I like him. Coming here too. That was my fear actually when we took Trevor Lawrence was that Singletary. These were the two that I really wanted were Singletary and Gus Edwards. I had a little bit of a fear that they would both be gone. So in retrospect, I'm glad. I'm glad we took Trevor Lawrence there. We got both of the guys that I wanted out of those two picks.
Yeah, can you review the team real quick?
Yep. So the team now is Kyler Murray and Trevor Lawrence at quarterback. Jonathan Brooks, Javonte Williams, Gus Edwards at running back. At wide receiver, we have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Malik Neighbors, Michael Pittman, Hollywood Brown, and Brian. I didn't realize they changed his name here to Hollywood Brown. That's funny. And then
Yeah,
at tight end, we have Trey McBride.
this is fun. I mean, we have plenty of like, and I hate like drafting for floor, but it does feel like solid projectable volume with our wide receivers, and then also like big upside swings as well with rookies that are also in like a volume play too. So like clean volume. So I don't know. I like the way that this is set up so far.
I do too. I think it's coming together really nicely. I think that we've got like even our running backs. Even though we went zero RB, we start with three. Like I think probably starting running backs. So like
Mm-hmm.
even going not drafting a single running back till the eighth round, I feel like we have a really strong running back room, which is I guess the reason that we do, or at least one of the reasons that we do zero RB is you can you can just get good running backs late. And here like it's not even like a lot of the time you do zero RB, you're making bets on like okay these RB2s one of them is going to become an RB1 at some point. Now we got three that I think are going to be the RB1 to start the season, which is kind of nuts.
Yeah, and I've heard that one of the counters for why zero RB is not the play right now is because historically your wide receivers are going to be a lot better than they would be now if you would zero RB because you're getting like the 24th best guy in round seven, whereas that guy's going in round three right now. And it's just a different environment. But there is a counter side to that, whereas the running backs that we're getting in these builds are just infinitely better profiles than we've ever gotten in the past. And then like this year, the quarterbacks and the tight ends aren't expensive, so you can they all just it fits so comfortably with this build that I'm like, maybe you're supposed to get uncomfortable, and that's potentially a problem for me. But I don't know. I feel like it's how like the current draft market sets up.
I'm not convinced that we're at the stage with best ball yet that we need to be getting uncomfortable. Like I think that's the thing that like in DFS, I think that we need to be getting uncomfortable to have a real shot at winning the big money now. I feel like so many teams are just drafting wrong right now that we're just draft what is like I think the comfortable builds like that's kind of what we've seen win so far, right? We've seen a lot of pros take it down. All right, let's make our pick. Probably another running back here. Do you have a preference between all of these?
I would rather not go Dallas, but it's either Blake Corum or Zach Charbonnet. I think that there's cases for both of them. I'll let you
Okay.
decide.
I'm gonna go with Blake Corum. I like the upside to. I think he has maybe some standalone value. Unclear what his role is going to be with Kyron if they see him as the Kyron clone, but also just massive contingent value. I think if anything is to happen to Kyron, so I like making that bet on Blake Corum, especially with I think we've heard. Kyron is actually dealing with a foot injury, which right now, it feels it's whatever. It's May. It's not even June yet. Who cares about a foot injury? But to me, like a foot injury can linger. Like that is the kind of thing that can set you back a little bit. So I kind of like the bet on Blake Corum right now.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm waiting. So I haven't heard any like. There's some great Twitter analysts that do like injury stuff. I haven't heard it, or maybe haven't found it yet. I come across like their thoughts on the Kyron stuff, but Blake Corum, if he gets 3 or 4 standalone games, he'll pay off this pick in
yeah,
like big time. And then if his role probably as like a get a couple touchdowns this year as the RB2, like still is fine. So I just feel like the that and Charbonnet, I think Charbonnet is also a great role this year. I think that he's the exact same way you project him. Like JJ Zacharyson was saying, like his projection is his where he's getting picked, and he's also got contingent upside in there too. It's like, oh, those are smashes in this range.
yep, yeah. No, I love that. Those are the players that I always like to target, and that's why I've been making that bet on like Khalil Herbert. To me, his projection is where he's being drafted, and to me, the upside is even higher in that like he could be traded to Dallas. He could be traded to like the trade is very much out there for Khalil Herbert. So then it's like if he does get traded to somewhere where he's going to be the starting running back, we already know he's pretty good. Like to me, the he is being drafted at his projection, and the upside is immense. Now, I guess he is part of a three running back room right now, so maybe he's you could argue that the projection isn't as solid there, but yeah, I love those guys when you can just take them at like, okay, this is where he should be going for this RB2 role, but maybe there's more there than we're seeing. That's my jam. Now, do you want to do Dallas, or do you want to go somewhere else here?
I'm down to Dallas. I do think that Ty Chandler is a good pick, but I think that the value on Dowdle is is worthy, right? The
Yeah,
rank value plus ADP value and like structural fit. I do think at some point we need to definitely like round out the wide receivers and
true.
round out the tight end. So let's do this. Let's start to like think about that a little bit. But
Yep.
I think we've done the execute both sides of like the zero RB build really well, and it was just a matter of like landing the plane, don't drop the baby, whatever the phrase is.
I saw somebody, I think it was in a chat, said something that, that's their big pet peeve is landing the plane. And so I've like stopped using that terminology. Oh yeah, we landed the plane here. And but I think I'm going to start using it because I actually like that. I think that it just works. It just fits with what we're trying to
Mm-hmm.
do, using the terminology, land the plane. But I'm so easily swayed by like, oh, that's a huge pet peeve. All right, maybe that's an obnoxious thing. I'm just like, all right, I'm not gonna use that terminology anymore. But I think it's good terminology for what we're doing here is landing the plane, in a difficult storm.
I get the side of it that's like you're drafting safe. Um, but that's not what I don't think that means. I think that means just like, okay, uh, properly assessing where you're at and what do you need to do to get this to complete.
Yeah,
Um, More than it is like draft safe, pick the guys that aren't going to be bad. Like you still want to pick the guys that are going to be good.
yeah. I think it just means you navigated what you needed to do, in this
Hmm.
journey, and you got to where you needed to go with your team. Is the way that I interpret it, which is exactly what I think we're doing a good job of it in this draft.
Yeah.
Um, so we can look at. All right, so this is again. I'm using the ETR ranks here. I'm going to sort by ADP though, so we can just see here. So a ton of running backs on the board. I don't dislike the tight ends in this range. Luke Musgrave. You can make a case where Jawan Johnson goes. He's another one that I do like. Hunter Henry there. K. Dotton. We plenty. Tyler Conklin. Now that they did not draft a tight end, I feel like we've got pretty good options for a second tight end on a Trey McBride team. I was sort of hoping that Luke Musgrave was going to fall to us, because I feel like he's been falling in ADP, and now we get the news that Tyler Kraft is, probably going to miss some time. So I'm like, feel like we should be in on Luke Musgrave at this point, but it doesn't fall to us.
Yeah, I was gonna say both of those names, John Johnson and then Musgrave. I even like Hunter Henry. Like if you want to go ahead and star him up. And Jawan Johnson's like a converted receiver, and that is like the profile that we love. And it's if it's taken him a little while to get there, yeah, he's had to put on like 40 pounds to
Right.
make this whole profile work. So I like that a lot. And then you said that the Green Bay is already down tight end. So again, there's more opportunity there for a player that profiled to be in Luke Musgrave, the more receiving threat of the two. So the profile that fits better for fantasy and should be getting more potentially snaps. I don't know. That feels like a good pick. But Hunter Henry was fine last year. He got a couple good
Yep.
games, and the offense. Everyone says they're going to be better. It can't be much worse. Like I live in New England. It was ugly.
Yeah.
Oh
Are you a Pats fan?
no, I'm actually a Falcons fan. I grew up in Georgia,
Okay.
and so being a Falcons fan, I'm
Is that
actually
a
like
Falcon shirt you're wearing?
it is.
Okay.
And so this is like the first year where in a little while where there seems to be like some excitement around the team. And I'm like excited about what this offense can be. And it's not just going to be like, oh, this is going to be, if we win or lose, it's still going to be a boring football game.
Right.
Right? Arthur Smith. But like the draft this year, oh my goodness, is what is this like? I don't know what, like, it's still not sure I processed the fact that we picked Michael
Michael
Penix.
Penix. Yeah. I assume you're not a fan of the pick, or are you? I mean, I've heard the argument that like, well, with a quarterback, if you're going to be reaching for somebody, it should be a quarterback that you really believe in. But it just with the Kirk Cousins, it seemed to not make a ton of sense. All right, let's
I
let's
just
make our
want the,
pick.
yeah, I'll tell you my answer
Okay,
afterwards. Um,
could take another receiver here. We could add Michael Wilson onto our Arizona stack. He's not somebody I draft a ton of. Um,
is Zay Jones still available? I think I like him better, anyways.
yes, he is.
Um, let's do that. And this is in the range of the draft where it doesn't matter about ADP, but I feel like that Zay Jones is more locked in to run routes
Yeah,
and run meaningful routes like down the field and in the end zone than Wilson is. But so either of them are interchangeable in my mind. But
yeah, no,
the Penix thing. Let me explain this. So
yeah,
I don't hate that they picked a quarterback. I hate that Terry Fontenot cannot pick a direction with this team. I don't know. It's like, okay, let's go get this elite tight end that's a pass catcher. Let's get this elite wide receiver that's a pass catcher. Bring in an offensive system that's intended to run the ball the whole time,
right,
and then we're going to draft a running back to match that. Like, but they're not going to use him. Like, and then we're going to pay a quarterback and draft a quarterback. It's just like
right.
there is no like
Yeah,
long term
pick a lane, man.
strategy.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Pick a strategy, pick a lane, and execute it.
yeah,
Like that's what I'm mad about, not the individual
yeah.
players. But so yeah, that's my take.
I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, it's just there doesn't seem to be any kind of like thought process to like how are we going to? They are not landing the plane. If we want to go back to that terminology, they are not landing the plane there in Atlanta. They're drafting a lot of great players, but the team doesn't make any damn sense.
Exactly. So I do think that. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. They're going to do better this year because the division's not so great, and they are definitely going in the right direction after like years of top 10 picks. Yeah, we stink. Um, so I guess it'll come together, right? I mean, that's all you need is like years of like number one overall picks. That's what like the
Right. At
Timberwolves have,
some point,
right?
exactly right. You just need those number one picks. Get a couple of them to finally hit, and you're golden. All right, so we're coming up in two picks. We have at quarterback, so we're at 2-5-6-2. At quarterback, we have Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence. Running back, we have Jonathan Brooks, Javante Williams, Gus Edwards, Blake Corum, Rico Dowdle. Wide receiver, we have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Malik Neighbors, Michael Pittman, Hollywood Brown, Brian Thomas, Zay Jones. And at tight end, we have Trey McBride and Hunter Henry. So we could be done at the onesie positions. We could add another if we wanted to, but we have 5 running backs, 6 receivers, or yeah, 6 receivers. I think we're in a pretty good spot here to take whatever we want. If you have a player you like.
Um, well, I know you. I don't want to do Tracy. Um, can you scroll down a little bit? Not too far. What do you want to do, Foreman?
I do like Foreman, especially when we
Um,
don't already have what's his name, Jerome Ford.
yeah, I think
Yep,
this works.
we could. Tyrone Tracy goes one pick after us. This guy, I think both of our last 2 picks, he has taken the guy that we've said I don't want that guy. We did the same thing with Michael Wilson. He took Michael Wilson. We say we don't want Tyrone Tracy. He goes Tyrone Tracy. So he is just the full fading our thoughts on these players. But he's still also getting players at solid ADP values.
Well, I think that if I was about to say Tracy, and then I was like, well, literally we were like Eric Gray.
Right. We were just talking
Um,
about it, and he's going
so
unowned.
I was like, hold up, Billy.
Yeah.
Let's just
Hold on a
pause a
sec.
moment and
Yeah.
think.
Love that.
So like let's have that in the back of our mind. Probably could get him at 211 unless someone
Not
in
in this
here is
room.
watching.
Not in this room. We can't. Yeah, because people are listening. I mean, you always if you stream a draft, there's going to be a few people in the draft who are listening to you. It's been my experience is anytime you bring up a player like well before ADP, they're going to be taken before you take them. Although I don't know that anybody. I don't think anybody who is in this draft with us has chatted with us yet, so maybe they're not. But also, we just got that news item break, so it's like even if they're not listening to this stream, they may just have alerts on, may have seen some steam,
Hmm.
and they're going to take him prior to his ADP anyway. So I think
Okay,
if we
well
want him,
let's do it. And if the guy right in front of us wants to double tap backup running backs for the Giants,
yeah,
we'll
we'll
let
allow it. Yeah.
him.
All right. All right. So we get our guy Eric Gray. Of course, our dream there was to get Eric Gray. This whole time we were just dreaming of getting Eric Gray onto this team. This is
Yeah.
a team built for Eric Gray. So now we have 1 pick left. We're at 2-7-6-2. Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence, Jonathan Brooks, Javante Williams, Gus Edwards, Blake Corum, Rico Dowdle, Deontay Foreman, Eric Gray, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Malik Neighbors, Michael Pittman, Hollywood Brown, Brian Thomas, Zay Jones, Trey McBride, Hunter Henry. So could do one more receiver, I think, on this team. would probably be my lean, unless we have somebody that we just make sense for our team.
I think the receivers make sense, and there's a couple that I was looking at the top of your list. I mean,
Okay.
we haven't like gone crazy with the week 17 correlation. I think we've fallen into some good stacks and did it a little lightly. Definitely more important to do through your pass catchers than it is through your running backs.
Yep.
So we've been good with that. But we started off the top by saying that the game that blows up is the Colts versus the Giants, and there's multiple Giants sitting right there.
True.
That's where my brain's at right now. What do you think?
Yep. I'd be happy to take one of the Giants. I think Darius Slayton just signed a new deal too for the Giants. They just paid him a bit more money, so
Hmm.
maybe a little bit more locked into a role. And then of course I always like Jalen Hyatt as a splash play kind of guy. Yeah, you get options with the Giants at the end of the draft. Those are the two right there. Yeah, it's pretty good range of receiver. Jalen McMillan, I think, is an interesting, like,
Hmm.
could be the wide receiver three there in Tampa. OBJ, I know like people hate on OBJ, but like if he is the wide receiver three there, he's going to be interesting in a good offense. I don't hate it for a last round pick. Do you hate the OBJ last round pick?
I don't love it.
That's fair. I mean, I get it. I get why you wouldn't love it.
I just like they brought in a new run like rookie receiver. They really were super consolidated to two last year, so I don't know.
That is true.
They don't really have a need to go add more. Maybe he could, but like it's not. He's not taking away targets from Tyreek. He's not taking away targets from Waddle.
Yeah,
So where's the role for him in that offense?
true. Oh, we also added Eric Gray onto that giant stack. I didn't think about that part.
Yeah, that is nice, and the theoretically the profile that we've been like kind of like the news has been about is a passing go style, like we're down, like we need to catch up kind of like offensive game, and that's perfect for us. That's what we're playing towards.
Yep.
Um,
Slayton,
yeah,
is that our guy?
yeah, let's do that.
I like it. So we end up 2-7-7-2. I think this is a really very good team. This is a build that I honestly I didn't do a ton of 2-7-7-2 last year. I think that I came from a spot of like my first year drafting best ball. I did a ton of four running back builds because it was just like, oh, you only have to fill in two running back spots and three wide receiver spots plus the flex. Seems like, you know, at that point all I was hearing was that wide receivers have more upside than running backs. Now I think that is like the data has come out like that's not really true. There's still a lot of upside in running backs. It's just it's tougher to do four running backs in part because I mean you also have the flex spot. There's not that big of a difference between two and three plus the flex spot, but also they just get hurt so much more often than wide receivers. So you take four running backs, like half the time you have one running back by like week 8. So I've more and more gone on to the just drafting them later, drafting more in volume. So I've done this kind of build this year a bit more, and it feels pretty good doing 2-7-7-2. To be honest, I like this kind of team.
Yeah,
So
because
happy.
you build advantage at the onesies, and then you just go through their volume. And at the later guys, it doesn't matter. Like if you have three of them there and only one of them hits, but one of them is a smash. One of them is your Kyron. Like
Yeah.
I don't care if those are dead roster spots. Like
Right.
obviously I do care, but
Yeah.
like I want them.
Prefer them
But
not.
like I would prefer them to not be. But like we're playing to get like a couple rolls at a really big hit rather than being like I have one roll at one big hit and I'm gonna be right on that. And like that's what you're really playing at the beginning of the draft, and that's why you draft less of them. But as someone who's just like I'm not like a player take whisperer, I would rather get like the structure that I can like just have a large portfolio of like a bunch of these guys, and when they do hit, I'm going to be like taking full advantage of it.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. Like I have player takes here and there, but like it's definitely not the strength of how I play any of these games. Like the player takes is
Hmm.
not my strongest. I'm usually getting my player takes from other people, listening to other people and like choosing. Like I think that was a really sharp point they just made, as opposed to like finding out. Now I'm trying to do a little bit more this year, the player take thing, trying to dig into a little bit more data to see if I can come up with some better player takes. But yeah, definitely leaning into this kind of structure, as you say, just makes a ton of sense. And I really like this team. So we end up with, I'll read off the team one last time. Kyler Murray, Trevor Lawrence are our quarterbacks, so two strong quarterbacks. Running back, we have Jonathan Brooks, Javonte Williams, Gus Edwards, Blake Corum, Rico Dowdle, Deontay Foreman, Eric Gray. I think that's a strong 7 running back room, even though we didn't take our first until pick 91. Wide receiver, we have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Malik Neighbors, Michael Pittman, Hollywood Brown, Brian Thomas, Zay Jones, Darius Slayton. And at tight end, we have Trey McBride and Hunter Henry. Now, I will say these wide receivers don't feel like my favorite wide receiver clicks. Like, again, I'm not a huge player take guy.
Mm-hmm.
These don't feel like the safest. Like, for getting 5 wide receivers by pick 67, I'm not like, oh, these wide receivers, like, this is just built in, like built in floor. I don't think we necessarily have that. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown built in floor there. Not really with Malik Neighbors. Like, I like him as a pick, as an upside pick. I don't know that we have built in floor. Michael Pittman to some extent, but I think we did take him a little bit ahead of where a lot of the rankings would have him. So yeah, some built in floor, but I don't know. Doesn't feel like the best offense necessarily.
See, it's interesting that you say that about Neighbors because my take is the exact opposite.
You do think he
That
has built
the
in floor?
because so the I was listening to Matt Harmon Reception Perceptions episode on what the expectation should be for Malik Neighbors in year one, and they're like, Waddle year one is the expectation, a bunch of like Mickey Mouse stuff, shorter targets, but like 30% of them. And it's not
Okay.
you may miss on like an opportunity to get like a massive game because that team may just not pass from massive games. But he's going to own the offense. They're going to run it through him. And it's just like a bunch of like the A dot's gonna may not be like what you want it, but I just like I don't know. I feel like the floor piece is like the least of my concerns,
Okay.
but maybe that's just like the rookie thing is where like the lack of floor concern comes
Yeah,
from.
I guess it's just like we haven't seen it yet. We the assumption is, yeah, they draft him really early, so I would expect him to have that kind of volume. But we haven't seen it yet. We don't know that their offense is going to be any good. So like from that perspective, I have some like, he doesn't feel as safe as some of the other, like Devonte Adams. We know he's just going to be a target hog. Like, the offense might suck, but we know he's going to get targeted 10 times a game. So I don't think he has, in my mind, not quite the same floor of some of those veterans in that range. I'm trying to think besides Devonte Adams, like even Ayuk, Debo, I think Debo, has a safer floor to me than Malik Neighbors. So it's not like I have a massive concern about the floor, because I do think they want to show off this new rookie they just drafted. They're probably, like you said, they're going to be dink and dunking with him a little bit, but it's just,
Mm-hmm.
it's, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe
There's
it's not as
questions.
big.
Like
Yeah.
I
There's
mean,
questions.
every nerf that you brought up is fair. I just am like, I don't know. I'm gonna try to buy into this guy who is like a top 10 overall wide
Yeah.
receiver.
And to
But
be
I
clear,
think
I'm,
that
I'm in on Malik Neighbors. I want to
yeah,
be
yeah,
clear
yeah.
about that also. Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you on Malik Neighbors. I'm definitely buying it. I'm just like, yeah. And I guess that's part of it is, once you get to round 2, that's one thing we've had a lot of those conversations. Like, you can nerf any of those players. Like, we have concerns about basically everybody in round 2. Even Devonte Adams, like, is he going to hit the age cliff? Is that offense just going
Hmm.
to suck ass all year? So like, we have those concerns with everybody in round 2
Yeah.
also. So yeah, that's no, I like the team. I think, I'm just like, just trying to, like, if you want to poke holes on it, it would be like just looking at, man, we took 5 wide receivers in the first 6 rounds. And like, I don't still feel like, yeah, this is guaranteed to smash of a wide receiver room. But I guess that's kind of true of most wide receiver rooms, regardless of when you draft them. And I do like the team. I do think there's a lot of upside here. So ultimately, yeah, really, really strong team, I think.
Hmm.
You wanna jump into another one?
Yeah, let's run it back.
Let's run it back. If y'all want to join us, get in now. Oh yeah, this is filling up quickly. Both of these, we've been like right at the end of the fills.
There you go. I was gonna give it a moment, then I was going to make you have to go against me, but this one filled, so this is good.
That would have been interesting. I haven't done that one yet. Draft against somebody
Yeah.
would be
I,
fun.
I always think that I think it's like it's always good content. I always wonder, I'm like, if you have two people knowing each other, I was like there was the I mean the kind of viral Twitter thing about the guy who went just like completely nuclear about his thing.
Getting
And I'm like,
sniped.
I'd rather have the people just be all pissy and throw their teams
Yeah.
than two friends sit in the room being like, they still draft like very fair teams, but being like, don't take like
I
X
know
player,
that.
don't take Y player, and just getting 6 picks like multiple times, like that scares me more.
Agreed. That is the funny thing about doing like seeing people stream against each other. And it's like, oh, I'll let you have Mark Andrews, which I do sometimes. I'm like, oh, this person's in chat. Like, yeah, normally I take Mark Andrews here, but I don't need him. And he, my guy has Lamar. I guess yeah, whatever. You can have Mark Andrews is one example that I can think of. And like, I do that sometimes. There is a part of me that's like, is this sort of like light collusion? Like it's like we're not colluding. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not talking with the person about what I'm going to take their player, but it is like a goodwill, like like you, I'm going to let you have your guy, and that is to me kind of a concern once you start seeing like a bunch of friends, oh, we're going to stream against each other. So that's yeah, it's an interesting concern there. That's sort of hard to address. Like you can't really ban it. And it's not like a big enough advantage. I think anybody really needs to worry about that kind of thing. But it is sometimes like maybe I shouldn't. Like I should just totally block out what the other people are doing and take
Well,
whoever
so,
I want.
and I'm not the type of person who wants to snipe people, but
Me neither.
I do try to put people in like into like a situation where they gotta think. Like if I'm on the right side of like the Miami turn, like you got Tyreek, you got Waddle, you got HM that all sit at that one two like the front side of the board.
Yep.
Like I want to like try to manipulate that as much as possible. Chicago, I want to try to manipulate that as much as possible and see if I can get people to do that. But like there's no, I don't, I definitely don't want to snipe. I'd rather just like pick the guys that fit my structure.
Yeah, I think people really think that they're more clever than they are when they are trying to snipe people. Like, oh, I see you got both those wide receivers. I'm going to take your quarterback. It's just like you're really not giving yourself an advantage there. You're hurting the other
Mm-hmm.
person. Yes, you're not really helping yourself in any meaningful way. So yeah, I'm not somebody who goes out of my way to snipe unless I'm angry. Who do we want to take here? AJ Brown, Drake London, or I can sort by ADP. AJ Brown,
I'm a
Garrett
big AJ
Wilson.
Brown guy.
I like AJ Brown.
Yeah, I think that offense is awesome. They were like the worst version of themselves that we've seen in like a couple of years, and Kellen Moore is there to hopefully like invigorate them a little bit, like inject a little bit of like creativity. Maybe like I know that they were all like I think they had like an outrageous like shotgun rate last year, and just maybe like something more than just like the basics. And I think that he's priced where he was last year, and he did really well last year.
Yep.
So I'm in on him again. The talent is there, like, and yeah. So I don't really think there's need to like. It's not hard of a sell on AJ Brown.
I like AJ Brown. I also like taking Jalen Hurts at the 33, whatever that kind of turn.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how do you feel about Devonta Smith?
Devonta Smith is. It's like taking like the second piece of the offense. It's I don't want to play through like second like the second side of the offense. I I think it's one of those things where if like you can get him on at the front side of like this the 3-4 turn, I think you probably do get Hurts more often than not on the flip of that. But his ADP I think doesn't belong where it is. I think it was right at the end the back of that long tier, but it's moving up, and I don't know any other reason other than like CD Lamb is the only you have the way to stack it up
Right.
that there's no real other logical way to like have a clean brain back there
Right.
with CD Lamb.
So at the top of ADP would be Marvin Harrison. Speaking of those rookie receivers, do you have anybody else that you like around here?
Ooh, I like Marvin Harrison here. That's a good value on him. Um, I feel like I don't have enough of him in my portfolio because I've been like very front weighted with my picks. To keep complaining about.
Hey.
I'll take the best guys in the draft.
Yeah.
Sure. Thank you, Underdog. And like in baseball this year, like I'm a big baseball guy. I grew up. That's actually me. That's a painting my grandfather did of
Oh,
me.
nice.
But the um, like I didn't have. I think I had like one 12 pick the entire like portfolio of drafts that I did, and it was great. Um,
You're talking
and
for the
and
baseball best ball.
for baseball, best ball, which
Okay.
I don't know if you played any of the other sports, but I enjoy a lot of the other sports too because their seasons are
Yeah.
long. Fantasy
Yep.
football, it's once a week, and it's like an enjoyable season. Fantasy baseball is brutal.
Yeah.
Like if you're playing season long fantasy baseball daily, setting your lineups, like I've done that. That's like it's so much labor. Like I'm so best ball for baseball, hockey, basketball. I enjoy that a ton.
So I don't want to brag too much about this, but I did have
Okay.
Cubs All Star Justin Steele on the podcast a month or two ago, and we talked about that how like yeah people can't really get into MLB best ball, and I brought up I was like man kind of as we're talking about this more I kind of feel like MLB best ball is the solution to this problem of like the season
Hmm.
is so long, it is such a grind, and you have to make transactions so constantly for MLB. And we all came around. It was me and Justin Steele and Fantasy Guru Drew. They both came on the pod together, and we came to the conclusion together that MLB best ball is just like what MLB needs to be focusing on. Like just like make
Hmm.
this a thing because it is the perfect format. I think MLB for fantasy baseball best ball is just so perfect for those people like myself. I mean, I get there are grinders out there who just want to be getting that edge of like I'm just on top of the news. I'm going to be making those transactions. I used to be that guy, so I totally understand that. But for people like
Hmm.
myself who don't want to be doing the daily grind of fantasy baseball, I think that MLB best ball is just like awesome. I think it's an awesome format.
Yeah, if you want the daily grind, you just play some of the daily contests. But then you
Right.
can like pick like lean in and out if you want to. But like Dark Sheep, he's got a great channel,
Yep.
and his mostly baseball centric. Does all other sports too, but I was on that a couple times. Like that's what most of my streaming was this year was the baseball stuff, and I enjoyed it. It's not as like saturated there's a lot of people doing draft streams for football.
Yep.
There's like two people or three people doing draft streams for
I saw you
baseball
had
or
a baseball. I don't know what to call him.
yeah,
The baseball Spanish Spanish baseball.
yes.
Saw you had him on your channel.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
That was probably one of my favorite episodes. We did not draft a team. We just broke down data that I had done and data that he had done, and we just were like, what is it? What does it mean?
Yeah.
Most of the data in best ball is descriptive in nature. It's going to be that way because the market changes year over year. We don't have that much historical data. Like
Yep.
it's just not that easy. But it doesn't mean that you should just be like, nah, like we got to
Right.
learn, like
Yeah.
understand what does it mean, why did it happen, where's their angles within there. So it just takes a little more effort. Yeah, so it was a really good chat with him.
I have not watched that. I mean, obviously, I'm not watching it right now when we're mid baseball season. Although there is a second contest now, so I guess it could be relevant still. But I haven't been drafting this new second half MLB best ball yet.
I don't know if it's relevant to the second one. We after
Okay.
this set of picks, well,
You want to
it's
go
pretty much
Hertz
just
here, or
yeah. Let's do that.
yeah, we could also potentially try to build our second stack already. But we can talk about that once we get there.
This is
We,
like an interesting room though. Like there's like some receivers on the board that you typically don't see right there. Um, like
yeah, that's a
DJ
good point.
Moore
DJ
still on
Moore
the
falling.
board.
Good point.
Yeah,
Michael Pittman's still there.
yeah. I don't think we want to go with another Pittman. I
Yeah.
like the way that this builds though, and the uh, we'll see where the um, what's it called? What's his name? McBride goes because he's the only other Arizona player, and there's that's where the Kyler. If he passed on Kyler Murray, we could throw Kyler Murray around and get like a whole nother. That's like an easy ADP value you can get by pushing him. But yeah,
You mean if this group passes on Trey McBride, we could take him at 40 and then potentially put pass on.
I'm not even saying and get taking him at 40 because we were having our
Oh,
last draft. I'm saying if he goes to the left of us, which he's most likely going to,
I see.
like if that drafter passes on Kyler Murray, there's no incentive for anyone to the right of us to draft him.
Yeah,
It's I think it's just like those little like where is the other stacking pieces, and can you manipulate them?
true.
Even though we do have Jalen Hurts, never mind, you got a stud already.
Right. Yeah. So we have no need for it. It's something that we could consider
Mm-hmm.
doing if we wanted to. I mean, we could also here just take Trey McBride at 40, probably then push Kyler to 81. I mean, theoretically there we should be able to push him to 88, but I never trust my rooms that much. I usually just take
Yeah,
him where he comes unless there's a falling value there maybe. Um,
yeah, but
but I mean, obviously not something we need to do. We could also just do a completely different build this time. Go for a Tank Dell, T Higgins, George
yeah, I
Pickens.
think that um, Either of those guys are really good. I'm a little nervous about T. Higgins and him just being moody this year. Um,
Yeah,
but Travis Kelsey seems like a great value in the fourth round as well. Tank
yeah, we
Dell
could we
seems
could
like
just do
great.
Travis
Let's
Kelsey
do
here.
Travis Kelsey.
All right, get that elite tight end. I have concerns about Travis Kelsey in the sense of like, are they just going to rest him more and more during the regular season, like they did last year? They kind of rested him in the regular season and then just like wheels up in the playoffs for Travis Kelsey, which I'm like, is that going to be more and more of a thing as he gets older? Just like hold him off longer and longer with this heavy usage, but he's going in the fourth round as a result of that concern, I think, because otherwise he would be, a first rounder if we knew he was going to be like elite Travis Kelsey usage. And he did just sign another big contract, so they're going to use him some at least. So yeah, I think he's a strong fourth round value.
Well, I don't think he's done yet. The playoffs show he's not done.
Right.
I think a large chunk of his like resting or slow start last year was he was injured like the first week, and it was like a don't think he. I'm not sure how back he ever got.
Right.
It's tough to get back in the NFL season with the way that how like physical football is. Um, so if he if you were to tell me that Travis Kelsey plays a full season healthy, I think he's the tight end one. Um, and so that's why I'm like, okay, unreal value here. And if he doesn't, they're like the whole like elite tight end, they're kind of betting on that guy being that guy for the season.
Yep.
So that's what kind of we're playing here.
Yep. Yeah, I'm happy with that pick. So what are we at? Three, no, just two wide receivers, a quarterback, and a tight end. So we are doing zero RB once again. We're well on our way to do another zero RB. Now, do you detour sometimes? Like at 57 here, if we had, I'm trying to think of who would fall here. Maybe Isaiah Pacheco falls to 64. At that point, do you detour from the zero RB if there is like a player that's just like he's fallen so far past ADP? That's what usually gets me. Is like I usually go in as like, yeah, I'm probably gonna do zero RB, and then like a running back that I like falls 10 picks past ADP, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna take this instead. Do you do that often, or do you really stick to your zero RB guns?
I'm sticking to the zero RB guns until later in the draft window when I'm gonna like reconsider are there targets in the earlier rounds that I'm like they're healthy, their values, let's go attack. But other than that, like I don't see like the like what kind of helium can some of these players have on their ADP, and like wide receivers later, I don't see a ton of that. But there's running backs later. If Josh Jacobs goes down, Marshawn Lloyd is going to be like excessively high. Like
Yeah,
and like I don't see that as like if T Higgins go down, maybe Burton does have a pretty decent spike, but like some of the like it's not the same like direct one to one when it comes to wide receivers. So
yep.
um, it would have to be like something excessive.
Yeah, I think that those are kind of the rare cases of the T Higgins and Jermaine Burton is like the perfect example of like a late round wide receiver who could rise. There's just not that many of them. I'm trying to think of what else like could happen within the like things that we could sort of predict that could happen. Like Rashi Rice would be an example. He gets probably the best example. He gets no suspension. News comes out he's not going to be suspended this year. Like he's obviously going to rise way up. But like there are just not that many examples where I think you gave a great example of like, yeah, Marshawn Lloyd. I mean, there's any number of running backs. It's like the starter goes
Mm-hmm.
down, he's going to be suddenly jumping 10 rounds. Like we have so many examples of that with running backs, whereas you don't really have that with wide receiver. That's a very good point. That part of the reason we do zero RB is just that those late running backs have so much. I like your terminology, helium. I've never heard that used in this sense, but yeah, that's a good terminology there. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I don't know where I use that term. Like,
Okay.
I think it's probably one of my favorites, and it's why I come back to it, even though it's probably just like me that says it. And then everyone's gonna hate when I say it, and now I can't say it anymore on streams.
No, yeah, I had to think for a second, like helium. What does it mean? And it's like, oh yeah, I get what you're saying. Like potential for rising. Like
Like, yeah,
it somehow gets around the corner of that ceiling. It's gonna just float up. And yeah, I
yeah,
get it. I get it.
um, yeah. So, where are we at right now? This is what's interesting about the Kelsey pick is are you going to play chicken with the room to get Mahomes back? Because probably 2v2, I would not play Hurts and play Mahomes if he comes back here, but he doesn't. But this
Okay.
is like, it's like the this is why I think that Hollywood Brown is like going to go to that side of the board because there's no way to like clean way to play him.
All right, Kirk would have been my pick there, but he goes. Do you
Mm-hmm.
have? I like McLaurin just fine. I like
Ooh,
You like Hollywood Brown.
I like Terry McLaurin a lot. Um, we were talking about like I like it with a quarterback like Jalen Hurts. You get your second quarterback needs to have like enough in the tank to make like impact. Like if on Josh Allen teams last year, I've done a little data study on like the I just haven't written it up yet on the solo QB. Like Kenny Pickett, I think added like 13 points to your team. So what does that really do for you from an advancement perspective? If you're really close, it does. But like that's not material there on like what your total aggregate points are. So like I do think that Jaden Daniels as like a second quarterback on this team is really nice. And they won't let us do that anymore. We'll forget that. But but he's the type of player I've been like when I anytime I've been looking at elite QB, he's like a do I now I'm going to actually have a real competitive advantage here
Yeah,
with these two guys. And it's not that expensive yet.
yeah. I love the Jaden Daniels pick. I struggle to not call him Jaden McDaniels because of my Wolves fandom, but the Jaden Daniels, I think, is just great where he goes. It seems like every sharp person, not every, I have talked to some sharp people who are not totally convinced, worried about the injury, but a lot of sharp people are really in on Jaden Daniels, and I think I fall on that side of things also. All right, we could go Calvin Ridley. I know you like your Tennessee guys,
I
or
even so
Doomsday.
if you
Yeah.
went like your rankings, you have DeAndre Hopkins ahead of him, and I agree with that personally.
Oh, do you want to do that?
Yeah, I do think that that's better. Um, yeah, but the only question is, do we get him back? On the flip side, let's just roll with that, DeAndre Hopkins.
Okay.
Um, I think that I mean Calvin Ridley wasn't that great last year. He was good, and I don't know. I feel like they had to pay the going rate for a receiver, and but that doesn't mean that he's not going to be their number two receiver. And I know that the news blurb is like he's going to play the Jamar Chase role, but he is not Jamar Chase.
Right. Right. Good luck. Good luck playing the Jamar Chase role. Like everybody always says, he's our Travis Kelsey this year. That was who was it? They were saying like Cole Turner last year. I feel like might have been the guy on Washington. Is that even getting the name right? Cole Turner. I feel like there was some like he's going to be or maybe it was actually Logan Thomas. Logan Thomas. He's going to be playing the Travis Kelsey role for us. They just love to say that these guys are going to be,
Mm-hmm.
these great players. They're going to be playing the role of these great players. It's like okay, like they're not that great players, so that role isn't as valuable. What up, Freshka?
This is looking good. It's I always like. Is there anyone doing weird stuff? Like, is there anyone like aggressively running backs in early?
Well, so Humble Legend comes into he does a lot of drafts in my streams. Here he could have taken Marquise Brown. Oh no, sorry, could have. Oh, never mind. He couldn't have. Never mind. Okay, he was hoping that one of these two would have come back to him, and I thought that one of these was still left for him. He was not given the option of taking one of those Chiefs receivers. So I was thinking that that was kind of a funny decision, but nope, that's totally in line with what he should do. Josh Allen guy goes Keon Coleman. Um, no, I don't think there's anything super weird here. Another zero RB bro here with Polo XBT.
Well, you do have like I don't know if it's like weird, but you do people have like the 10 hole and the 12 hole kind of pushing back against
Zero RB.
a
Yeah,
common convention around running backs.
they're
And like
saying we're going. They have high testosterone. These guys.
yeah, and it's like the commitment. And I'm not against. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to say I'm against running backs.
Right.
I have I've had written two things for Spike Week so far. One just about like zero RB and how frequently it's used, and just like I used a couple little tricks from like combinatorial review and stuff like that. But then another one was like just kind of looking at how wide receivers and advance rates. But then I have like a sister piece to that, which is the running back version of that. And last year, like obviously Christian McCaffrey smashed, but like not just McCaffrey. Like if you spent up and got a couple good guys, it was good. But the way I see it is wide receivers are requisite. How you manage the other picks, like we did two non-wide receivers, that could have very easily been two running backs. That's fine. Like you go get your guys, create an advantage at running back, and then you build the onesies through volume. Like that's totally acceptable. So I'm not again out of the way. So I said solo QB. I'm not out on some like robust-ish style drafts.
Sure. Yeah, I do some of the. I don't know that I ever do what these guys are doing with the three running backs in the first 5 rounds. That's maybe, I mean, four in the first six, like that. That is more than I ever do. But yeah, I definitely like. I'm for experimenting in drafts a bit. I think that I'm doing. I think I am doing a good amount of zero RB. Like you say that only 2.5%. Like I'm definitely doing a lot more zero RB than most people are. But I'm not sure that I'm pushing it to the same extent that you are, where you're doing it. You say you're doing it like 50. Oh, Kyler goes one pick before us,
I have not
which is
drafted a
fine.
non-zero RB team so
Yeah.
far.
Okay. Yeah. Um, we could go Evan Ingram. We got the Tennessee piece. We could add the Jacksonville piece, or we could go JSN, Rashi Rice, JMO. Any?
um, I don't know if I have a preference here. Um, this is tough. Go ahead. Let's do JSN. Like, okay, let's
I
do
just
that.
I was thinking we could do Evan Ingram. I have a ton of double elite tight end builds, so I'm like, let's
Uh-huh.
just push it and see if he comes back to us. Um, would have made sense in this build because we were, to build out that Tennessee Jacksonville thing again. Could have
Mm-hmm.
done it, but I don't
Double
know.
elite's tough, and I don't know. I'm I'm more. I don't know how I feel about like how often your tight end's going to actually hit your
Flex.
your flex, and even like Evan Ingram. Like Evan Ingram's bit is that he doesn't. He like is super consistent. Has targets. Like maybe he'll score touchdowns. That's something that's like not like
Right.
consistent
Not
year over
sticky year to
year.
year. Yep.
Yeah, but and that wasn't what he's been done historically. So um, he's not the type of like as a double elite. I'd rather have Bowers as someone who has like more of a ceiling, in my opinion, than Evan Ingram does.
Yeah, that's a good point. I've drafted a ton of Evan Ingram, but maybe he makes more sense as like your first tight end, like as a guy who's like he's gonna give you that floor at tight end, give you 10 points every week, as opposed to like your second tight end where it's like, yeah, he's just not gonna hit your lineup all that often because he's hopefully gonna be blocked by Trey McBride, Travis
Mm-hmm.
Kelsey, Mark Andrews, and not going to hit your flex. Like you're hurting if that 10 points is hitting your flex spot. So yeah, that makes sense to just like he's not the ideal second tight end. And I definitely have done it a fair amount with Evan Ingram as the second tight end, but I am trying to like recalibrate. Like, okay, maybe it's not the right pick to take him there. I think that's a sharp take.
Yeah, and it's like the him versus like George Kittle. Those profiles, George Kittle's so
Perfect.
explosive.
Yep.
Like that's like the second. If I'm going double elite tight end, I'm like I want a Kittle who could like smash the slate, and then I also have another tight end that's also can like Kelsey Kittle. I don't know that duo. Ooh,
So
yeah,
we want to take a running back here.
yeah. I
We could
like
take
Aaron Jones. Um, I don't. I mean, he's. I don't think he's going to get like an insane workload. Ty Chandler's, I think, a great zero running back like Phil, but like this is a great value on Jones.
He's just a good running back. Yeah, I was
He
very
is.
happy that the Vikings signed him. Like he's got talent. Now, like whether the offense can be good enough that they can like sustain an actually good fantasy running back, I'm not sure, but I hope so. So yeah, I like making that bet on Jones.
And Green Bay's got a couple late
MGM.
pieces, which
Yeah.
are that'll be a good stack. I know, like the I think it was Pat Crane said that like the way to prove that you're a fantasy analyst this year is being in on Dontavian Wicks, or it
Yeah.
was someone like that in one of
Yeah.
those podcasts, and I was just like, that made me laugh. So maybe he's in play for us.
I've been in on Dontavian Wicks was my guy very very early on, and I'd love to say that it's because I am just the leader of the pack, but I was in on him because Coach Speak Index talked about him, and then I looked into it and was like, oh yeah, he was actually really good. So yeah, I think Coach Speak Index maybe is responsible for the Dontavian Wicks love for everybody to
Hmm.
some extent at least.
Yeah, I think that whomever created that account, brilliant work. I'd love to understand what you're doing and like talk about it from a data perspective, but The
So
content
you
that he
can
puts out there. Go ahead.
just if you don't know who he is, so he was on Pete Overzet's Best Ball After Dark. He was on an episode of that. You
Okay.
have to pay to be able to watch that, but yeah, it was really good. He's a really sharp guy. I was really like, you could tell that
Hmm.
he put a ton of work into it. Sounds like he's coming out with a podcast at some point. So he is trying to build on what he has going on right now. But yeah, he's an interesting conversation.
Yeah, that's like a must follow.
Yep, and that is, I think it's just at Coach Peak Index on Twitter.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm a fan. I actually, as we've been talking about him throughout this, I'm like, I feel like I need to go back more because you mentioned a couple times, like, oh yeah, Coach Begin to talk about this, and I'm like, oh, I missed that. So like, probably just need to go back and like read his timeline at some point because I'm sure there's lots of little nuggets there that I don't have, admittedly, don't have notifications turned on, so I just miss some of those nuggets that come up. But it's probably useful to just like, be on top of what he's putting out there.
Yeah, because he puts like the full clip there too, and it's like okay, you can see like the whole conversation. A lot of times when you get be like Jameson Williams has been great this year. And it's like blah blah
Right,
blah blah blah, but you don't get the question and then the full answer.
right.
Whereas like it's just like it's. I appreciate that he gives like the full minute and a half clip, and then like also talks about it, and then has like his reliability score too.
Yep.
It's just money.
Yeah. No, it's a great follow for sure. So this is interesting. So Brock Bowers, that we were kind of hoping that he might fall to us, goes, and then Quentin Johnson at pick 100. Don't think I've seen that before.
I wonder if that was intentional, um,
Yeah.
because I don't know. That's not even going to box anyone out of taking a Charger.
No.
Like I
Yeah.
would, like I'd still go play Herbert Palmer and be happy with that.
And the rest of the team makes
Like,
sense too. Like he has CJ Stroud with Nico Collins, everybody else kind of in line with ADP. So yeah, I'm guessing. I think you might be right. Maybe that was an unintentional pick.
you're always, oh, we'll see what if he like lets us continue to draft or not.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Exactly. Oh, Jaden Daniels goes. That could have been another.
Yeah.
Well, whatever. Um, Tyler Lockett is right there. Trey
What are your
Benson just
thoughts
went to
on
the.
Tyler Lockett and what's their buy?
So we do
Week
have
10.
JSN week 10. Yeah, we've got that makes sense for us, I'd say.
I don't hate that. Um, and Gino's a nice play later, so let's play Lockett.
Yep.
He's every year he's good. Every year. And every year
Exactly.
they're like, he's not going to be awesome this year. Well,
He
he's
might
going to
fall
be
off. Yeah.
but he's going to be really good.
Yeah. Right.
So he's just like okay, good click
Yep.
right there.
And so now that he is our six, so we have 1161 at this point. So we probably need to start hammering the other positions a little bit more,
Yeah, we
which is
should like
totally fine. This is a good pocket to do so.
yeah, and I feel like the Aaron Jones is just like a massive steal here. Like
Yeah.
it's a non-zero RB running back, or it's a player guy who's not typically in my player pool, and so that feels like a win for me right there.
Dallas Goddard goes. He was going to be my suggestion for 112.
Mm.
It's rare that you actually see Dallas Goddard go. I mean, I guess that can't be true. Like his ADP is around 113, so he has to go ahead of ADP a fair amount of time. But I feel like it's usually only if the Jalen Hurts drafter takes him, you don't see him go all that often too far ahead of ADP. But I could be just totally wrong about that.
He
Um,
feels like the oh shit, I missed
yeah,
I
yeah.
missed
Also that. Also that.
it. Like I missed the tight ends. And he's not an elite tight end, but you can sell yourself that he used to be an elite tight end conversation. So
Yeah,
you're like, I'll click this name.
yeah. That's totally spot on. Yeah, we have a couple. We have some outs for late quarterbacks. So I think probably one of these running backs in this range. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. And those top three guys, I think, are where my attention goes. Um, yeah, any of them are good. I like Brian Robinson a lot.
All right, let's do Brian Robinson. I was gonna do the sexy click with Trey Benson, but I'll take the gunshot victim as well. That's kind of you know he's been through it. He's a tough guy. I wonder if he was affected by that at all last year.
I mean, I don't know. That's
Was
a
it
good
prior to
question.
last season? Now I'm trying to remember
It
the
was it was
timeline.
2 years ago, I
Oh,
thought.
okay, yeah,
So,
yeah,
yeah, it wasn't last year.
okay,
Um, but Antonio Gibson um, is gone, and Austin Eckler is brought in to play that role. I don't think Brian Robinson's role has changed at all. He was still the running back that ran the football. He was never really schemed up like receiving options. It was just like screens and stuff. So like I feel like he's going to get the exact same workload as last year. And Sam Howell was like okay for fantasy, like pretty good, I guess, like fun, like uh new like Ryan Fitzpatrick is the way I think of him.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think Jaden Daniels could be even better. So I think I like that play.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, we are now there's a string of running backs go now, so that's unfortunate for us as we are running back needy, but a lot of people are. We had some other zero RB drafters. So hopefully we get one more of kind of this tier of running back.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I
Yeah.
haven't taken a lot of Eckler, but I think that he's somebody that I would take with our, with this pick where we're going. I guess we have Brian Robinson, so maybe not the most sense for this team. Chase Brown right there. I like Corum for this range. It sounds like you are. So tell me why you don't like the Dallas guys. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts there.
They just like I mean they'll be on the field. Um, but I just feel like they're gonna pass the ball to the explosive players, which is CD Lamb and Ferguson. Like I just I don't the guys that aren't good at football or not necessarily bad at football, but I don't think Tyreek's not no Zeke's days are in the past. Like he's
Yeah,
there to block. Like I don't I mean I understand that he's going to be on the field and passing downs, but it's like it's just to give Dak more time. So I just don't I don't know. Dowdle's the one that seems a little more interesting to me because of the role that he might actually be like the running back.
yeah,
Yeah, that's the one that of the two that I've been targeting.
yeah. I kind of like Dowdle at ADP just as a like, what if he is the starting running back for Dallas kind of pick. Um, but I also think there is a possibility that they're going to trade for one of these other running backs. So no guarantee that he's there.
Hmm.
All
If
right.
we, I don't want to say who, I have like a target here, but I don't want to say it in case someone is
In case,
watching. Okay, let's go ahead and take Chase Brown.
yeah, that was definitely my target also was Chase Brown,
Yeah,
and then actually Jerome Ford would have been my backup there if Chase Brown was not available. But I like that. I like that pick.
Chase Brown feels like Aaron Jones light, like the same type of like not a ton of touches, but explosive. It's the profile that I'm like the hardest to work with because last year he had a couple games that were explosive or a couple plays that were explosive. That's going to skew every summary statistic that he has. It's going to look
Yep.
big, but so we're like, but that's what we're looking for. So it's like it's like catch 22 of like his numbers are going to look good because of a couple small plays
But
and
if
a
you
small
take out those
sample.
plays, yeah, right,
But that's what we want. That's who we
right,
look for. Like like
yeah,
it's like
exactly,
if he didn't have those plays, he wouldn't be in the NFL. Like
right,
so like it's a tough profile to get your head around. But
yeah,
I think that in better in best ball type of pick with massive contingent upside.
yeah. I'm definitely like a Zach Moss is my guy of the two of them. Like I prefer Zach Moss, but Chase Brown I actually have a fair amount of just as like kind of feel like he's the end of the tier there.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we have I mean Zach Charbonnet is there. I know you like Charbonnet. Um,
It's Charbonnet or Dowdle for me. Either is
or
fine.
I actually don't hate Lloyd
Or
or Miller
Marshawn
either.
Lloyd. Marshawn Lloyd, I think, is really good.
All right,
Um,
let's do full. Lloyd is a fun click. I think we get that week 17. Yeah, running back week 17 correlation is not ideal, but it's better than nothing. I think.
but it's also the profile matters. Like running back. Like not all running backs are made equal.
Yeah,
I would counter that
true.
like wide receiver quarterback correlation is going to be like relatively standard. I mean, obviously Jalen Hurts has a more running profile than others, but when AJ Brown hits, he hits together. Those work in like concert. But like Marshawn Lloyd, Chase Brown, those are the type of guys that like they may be Aaron Jones, like they may be functioning through the passing game. So like that's like a it's just like it's a they aren't necessarily like anti like scoring environment runners.
Yep. Yeah, very very true. Um, Tom Strachan checking in from
Hmm.
Gateshead. Is it Gateshead, Tom? Yeah, good to see you from across the pond. Tom says, "Good evening." What is it there? It is. I think you're 6 hours ahead of me, so 9:44 where Tom is. About bedtime. Time for a nightcap for Tom.
Yeah, he puts out so much content and
Yeah,
all
he
good
really
stuff.
does. Yeah, yeah, really really sharp content. I always love Tom. He was a guest last week
Hmm.
on Why I? Okay, that's I don't know what that means, Tom. I guess I means yes, right? So yeah, I guess I do. I do. I've
Yeah, I
been
was just
more and more
actually.
in on
Go
Kendra
ahead.
Miller. Sorry, no, you go ahead.
I was just gonna say I was just recently in the UK
Oh,
at a wedding over there. That was fun. But what were you gonna say about Kendra Miller?
I've been buying in a little bit more and more on Kendra Miller just as a I think that he is somebody who again probably going like where he should be by ADP but has the upside to just be like they might cut Alvin Kamara like he just could be the running back one there in New Orleans in which case it'll be wheels up for him here. Do you have thoughts on Kendra Miller?
Oh, I think that's the exact right take. That he wasn't like overly healthy last year and didn't get the opportunities, but he is like in like an ascending asset where Kamara is a descending asset, and Kamara is expensive. So I could see that them like turning over that team to the new young player. I don't think I trust the coaching staff to do the right thing there,
Right.
but I don't know. Maybe bet on talent.
All right, so we have Ben Sinnott here. We could do the double Minnesota running back with Ty Chandler. If you like any of
Yeah.
these, Ray Davis, Kamani Vidal, Tyler Algier. I like Jaleel McLaughlin. Plenty of, or we could go, like I said, Ben Sinnott could go back to Hunter Henry. Um,
It's either Sinnott or Tyler Algier for me. I think we could probably get both. Let's go Sinnott on the front side.
okay,
Um, I think Algier needs a little bit of stacking or game correlation there. I know it's running
with
back, tight
Washington, yeah,
end, so weak,
right.
like a weak correlation. But
Well, we also have Terry
uh,
McLaurin on this team, so we have the
we
yeah,
do.
but yeah, still yeah, pretty weak, but yeah, something.
Yeah, it exists, but it's still like it it's May 30th, and we know that Algier, or we're quite confident that Algier is going to have his role as the running back too,
Yep,
with a 35-40% split of it being his. Like, how many of these players are you in this range? Are you like Jalen Wright? I understand that's a contingent upside bet
yep,
right there. Tyler Algier is not the contingent. I mean, he has the contingent upside as
right,
well, but like he's also a volume bet too.
yep.
So I love the players that can do both.
Yeah, I do too. Those are my favorite, especially in the later rounds. When I mean, I guess in the early rounds, you're just taking the guys who have immediate upside. You don't need the contingent upside. It's just going to be you take the starters. But yeah, in these later rounds, it just makes so much sense to bet on the guys where it's like, all right, you're taking him at the ADP where it's like his projection would have him at this ADP. But like you can see just massive upside, massive contingent upside. Love those picks in the later half of drafts. All right.
Can you scroll down on the team? I just want to
Yep.
confirm that we didn't bye week ourselves for the tight ends. Okay, good.
Yeah, we're good. I checked that. I've checked that immediately.
Okay.
I'm very much a bye week, bro.
Oh, I like that. I will. So the one. Okay, let's go ahead and go with Algier. But the streaming and drafting, it is a skill.
It's tough. It's tough. Yeah.
yeah. You have to dead air is you got to avoid that. You got to like set up your stacks and being paying attention to what other people are doing. And I don't know. As someone who did a little bit of it, it was like my first draft. I was like, on a baseball team. I'm in 12th.
Right. I did the same thing. I made some bad teams. I'm trying to think what it was. Oh no, the worst I had was like one of the first things that I did on this channel was playoff best ball football
So
and
much
NFL
fun.
playoff best ball. I love it so much, but trying to stream it, and we were doing the thing where it's like, all right, we're not going to talk about our picks until we're on the clock. I ended up with some teams where it's just like, this team is dead. Like it's just like immediately like this team does not have a Super Bowl that could fill a full roster, and it's just like it doesn't happen at least not very often when I'm just like thinking it through, but like trying to have a conversation with somebody, not trying to talk about the picks prior to our pick, and then just like if you have any kind of like disagreement or like I did a draft where it was like, oh, I was like, well, this is obviously the quarterback here, he's the only bring back from the other conference that makes sense for this team, and he's like, well, I actually really like this quarterback here, and then I was like, okay, but it was like last second, like, I guess I'll let you explain after how this is going to work, and then he was like, well, no, it doesn't make sense for this team, and I was like, well, fuck, just like you just like run into those scenarios. It was just like it's tough. It's tough when you, but I in general I find it easier with somebody else on the stream with me,
Hmm.
just because I don't have to focus as much on the dead air. It's just like the two of us are carrying that load of having that conversation. Whereas sometimes doing these drafts, it's like, man, I don't have anything to say right now. I'm just like trying to come up with things to say when it's just me. So always appreciate having somebody else on these streams with me.
Well, it's like in this instance, we can have our responsibilities, right? Like you're making sure that the bye weeks are good
Yeah,
and
yeah,
we have a little
exactly.
bit of correlation, and like you're letting me like kind of stay within bounds. I did one of those where it was that I had my buddy on, and he is not into best ball. He the sports better, loves it, but like we brought him on for a basketball playoff basketball best ball stream.
Nice.
Like, okay, so like there's some nuance here. And he like comes up with this pick, and he like first when we select this one, the second pick comes up, he's like, let's do this. I'm like, well, we're not going to do that, but I'll tell you why
Yeah.
afterwards.
I
And
should
with
have done that. I should have done that. Yeah.
yeah, but the playoffs are tough because like if you're there's condensed team, there's not 12, it's like typically 6, and then you're going to your picks have to be like ordered. Like you could do this one to do this and then do this. Like to stream that, you're just gonna get like we get our stuff sniped here. Like we would get that stuff sniped so quickly.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's just like almost it is that's got to be so negative EV to stream playoff basketball.
Yeah. Almost certainly. All right.
Yeah.
Will Levis goes. So I have a feeling about our upcoming pick.
Okay. So where we got to figure out a quarterback then.
So Geno Smith would be, yeah, he's right
Yeah.
at ADP, and we have the double stack there. So I think that just, and that is by week 10. We have Jalen Hurts by week 5. So I think that's just the pick. Do you
That's
agree?
flawless. And a lot of people have been in on her Smith this year as like a bounce back. That offense should be a little bit more exciting too. They got the coordinator from Washington who just chucked it down the field the whole time. And while we don't have DK Metcalf, who seems the most likely person to just chuck it down the field to,
Yeah.
we have the other two pieces. And if the whole offense cooks, um, then we're kind of buying into it.
Yeah. And like you said, Tyler Lockett, always good. I think JSN could take a step forward this year. So I don't mind not having DK Metcalf in this stack. Obviously, would prefer if we had him, but now do you know who Seattle plays in week 17? I don't know if I know off the top of my head.
Oh, I don't. I haven't really been building that one often.
Oh,
Um,
they play the Bears, I think. They're the one that it's Seattle is with Minnesota, Green Bay, and Chicago. So we have a lot of Green Bay and Minnesota, or at least we
nice.
have pieces of Green Bay. I think you have one piece of Green Bay, um, and a piece of
So does that mean
Minnesota.
that this team is higher likelihood of making the finals? So this I see. You see what I'm doing here. I
Yeah,
am trying to increase the likelihood that you have to Venmo me.
exactly. Right, right. Well,
I'm not
as
playing
you
for
should, as you
17. I'm
should.
playing for 16.
Yes, exactly right. That's what you should be doing. Yeah, yeah. Perfect. That's, I mean, which
Oh.
might be the right build anyway. Even like jokes aside, like should we be playing for? I don't know. It is tough to know the correct
Hmm.
approach.
I don't. It's a the part that I'm not sure how to you could even quantify or like how you would. I mean, you could, but like the tournament's not going to be stable like next year, like the payout structure. So like you're going to be like, oh well, it's a better EV play to do play for week 16, but then it could change next year, and then like
Right.
the what the fundamentals are like it's like your possible EV is done like, but it's over 8 years, like, and then within those eight
Right.
years, the principles will change. So
Yep.
um, I'm not sure how one would address that, but it's one of my questions that I have in terms of when you're quantifying what is the right way to play it.
All right, so we have a few of my guys here. So I'm big on, I mean, the biggest one is Khalil Herbert. I just think he is being drafted at where he should be based on his projection, has massive upside if he is traded. I don't hate J.K. Dobbins on teams that don't have Gus Edwards, just like bet on his health. Do you have, or Tyrone Tracy, and anybody that you like here?
Let's do Herbert.
All right.
I like
We,
that.
I guess we technically could have also gone Noah Fant, part of our stack, but we already have two tight ends that I feel pretty good about.
Yeah, and what our build is what right now?
So we are now at 2-6-6-2. So we have Jalen Hurts, Geno Smith at quarterback. Running back, we have Aaron Jones, Brian Robinson, Chase Brown, Marshawn Lloyd, Tyler Algier, and Khalil Herbert. Wide receiver, we have A.J. Brown, Marvin Harrison, Terry McLaurin, DeAndre Hopkins, JSN, and Tyler Lockett. Tight end, we have Travis Kelce and Ben Sinnott.
Yeah, I feel pretty comfortable with this team. Where would you take it in our last two picks? Like,
So let's see.
yeah.
Let's take a look. So I feel pretty good about quarterback. I think we're probably set there.
Hmm.
Um, Running back, like I honestly I think this could be a fine running back room, but I also think that we could probably say that about most of our positions. So maybe we'll go one more running back. I also think we could be done at wide receiver. I mean, we made the bets first and second round on wide receiver. Wait a little bit, went a couple away from a couple rounds, but then came back to McLaurin, DeAndre Hopkins, JSN, Tyler Lockett. So we have six by pick 105, and then tight end. I think we could be done. We could be honestly. I think that we kind of have luxury picks here. It's kind of like we don't have
Yeah.
any glaring needs at any of these positions. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I don't think I'd get to eight running backs with this team. I just
No.
feel like we have plenty there. But I think that the what you said is luxury picks. Like if a tight end is sitting there and you feel really comfortable with him, like it's that's not a bad play. I don't feel like this a three tight end is bad. I do think that there's a comment in the chat about potentially another like wide receiver. I feel like 1 and 1 feels like the
Yeah.
cleanest way to do this. But I've been drafting some. I definitely have some 2.862s where I was super aggressive with the zero RB, and I have no problem with that with those sixes and feeling like I have the juice. Um, I have some fun ones from really early. Like I went like very particular about the guys that I thought were going to increase, but yeah, this I'm open to whatever.
All right. I mean, let's just take our guys. Let's get some players that we like here. I
Yeah.
think.
Um, okay, so players that I like. Deeper. I'm gonna wait until.
Wait
Okay, I'll
until
get.
you
Yeah,
at least
you.
have to wait until after Humble Legend because he definitely listens to like every stream and like literally tries to take the guys that we want. I think. Um,
How
all right.
about let's see if you can get it. It's the Colts running back two.
Evan Hall.
Yes, there we
I
go.
like Evan Hall.
Yes, I think that he had the role before he got hurt last year, and Trey Sermon has not ever shown being good. So I feel like that's just like it could be an awesome offense to be in on again.
Yeah, I was very much. He was like one of my highest drafted players last year, and then of course gets hurt. Was it prior to week one or in week one? It was very early. That was brutal for me last year. Drafting a ton of Evan Hall. The
Hmm.
sad thing was, so last year it was
It was the
he.
right play. Like
Yeah.
it was a great play last year. You got Zach Moss.
Right, right, yeah. But it was also so he was one of Derek Brown's favorite players. So I think he sort of like
Hmm.
influenced me, Debro, wanting to get more Evan Hall. The other player that he loved in the 18th round was Puka Nakua, and I ended up with a ton of Evan Hall, a little bit of Puka Nakua. But I'm like, man, I wish I had played that the opposite way.
Yeah. Uh, oh, what a call last year if you had Puka
I
Nakua.
know, yeah.
Oh, yeah, all of us so jealous.
All right, so 2-7-6-2, and I was very much in on Rico Dowdle, who I still think was a strong bet last year. It just Tony Pollard played healthy the entire year, so it just never came to fruition. But I was like, man, Rico Dowdle, this guy could be like he is the clear second running back, never gets drafted, and he's on the Cowboys. Like, he could be an absolute
Hmm.
smash, and then just never had his opportunity. He still was fine. He's had a few touchdowns last year, but felt like he could have been a smash if we ever saw Tony Pollard get hurt.
Yeah, and with the Puka thing, it's like I do think people were saying Puka. It's just like this, like he had this super question. I mean, he had some good statistical profile, but like he was drafted late. Like there was no guarantee he was going to be even on the field ever. Like, but then like, oh, he's got some camp buzz, and it kind of all came together, and like it was a smash. But like, I don't see.
Who's your guy here before we finish the
Um,
conversation?
what about Jalen Hyatt? Jalen Hyatt.
Yeah, we can do Jalen Hyatt. Oh wait, I
Unless you have
clicked.
someone else.
Wait, is he here? Oh yeah, there he
Um,
is. Yeah, there he is. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, we can do
So
Jalen Hyatt.
it was either to him or Rondale Moore to get. I have to do a Falcon. But this is
Just as a
good.
homer pick. Yeah, I mean, too
Yeah,
late. Too late.
yeah. But it's like one of those profiles where it's like there is some buzz around it, but do I believe it? Like how much? And like if I do believe it, how much should I be investing in it as a late 18th round pick? That
Exactly.
seem like I don't know. So like how you would have to have like a material amount for it to have like actually boosted your portfolio. So and like I don't see any one of those guys currently on the board that is super buzzy or at least has some drumbeat, but I'm waiting.
Yeah, those will come, I think, more in August, hopefully.
Hmm.
Yeah, and last year, I mean, there were a lot of very sharp people who were very much in on Kyron. Like he was a little bit buzzy, and a lot of very sharp people did draft a ton of Kyron. I probably had about like he wasn't drafted in every draft. So I had under the 8% whatever of Kyron. But I'm like, I think I might have been in line with like based on how often he was drafted, I had like about equal to what the field is doing with Kyron. But that was, obviously another one that like Puka was just such a smash that I'm like, man, if I had just turned some of my sadly it was for me, it was Rico Dowdle and the other one was Joshua Kelly, who did have his opportunities, and turns out he just stinks. So his it was like, man, the thesis for both of them was like he could, he has a ton of contingent upside on a great offense, and then you see, Joshua Kelly, he actually started with an amazing week one. I was like, oh my god, and then Eckler got hurt, so it was like this is the best pick of all time, and then turns out he just was awful in every game Eckler did not play.
Yeah, he's just not a good running back. And then comment in the chat about like Kyron was roughly like 3% owned last year. So if like you're in a best ball mania portfolio, you're only having a small handful of shares.
Right.
So and then every one of those shares has to be aligned with the team around it to make it work. So it's like how much is it truly boosting? But yeah, the lessons learned from last year. We'll go ahead and review this team, right?
Yep. Yeah. So I'll read it off for you. So
Mm-hmm.
we have at quarterback Jalen Hurts, Geno Smith. Running back, we have Aaron Jones, Brian Robinson, Chase Brown, Marshawn Lloyd, Tyler Algier, Khalil Herbert, and Evan Hall. Wide receiver, we have A.J. Brown, Marvin Harrison, Terry McLaurin, DeAndre Hopkins, JSN, Tyler Lockett, Jalen Hyatt. And at tight end, we have Travis Kelce and Ben Sinnott. How do you feel about it?
This is another good one. I mean, you had the Jalen Hurts that can separate by himself. You do have it stacked up as well. Dino Smith, he's the type of guy who you need the pass catchers, and we do have the pass catchers, so that's
Double
great.
stack. Yep.
Yeah, and then I do like to correlate and game stack and all of that, but I'm not going to overdo it, and I don't feel like we overdid it. The last one we were like very conscious of setting up with something unique.
Yeah.
This one we're just like we'll take a little ADP value, we'll take the some stacking as needed, but like we're just gonna play the best plays, and I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah. So we have the Seattle double stack. I think they play Chicago in week 17. So I guess, and I might be wrong about that, but I know they play Chicago one of those weeks. We do have Khalil Herbert, who, we're hoping that he gets traded out of Chicago. So hopefully that we don't have that bring back. But if he does stay in Chicago, maybe he ascends to be the RB1 by that point, or, due to injury gets in there as the running back one, as the bring back. So yeah, I think that this team looks pretty good to me. We also don't have anybody from Dallas, I don't think. So we don't have the bring back for Philadelphia. But hey, here's what's going to happen. Khalil Herbert traded to Dallas. Now he's the running back one in Dallas. He's the
Ooh,
bring back on those Philadelphia stacks. I mean, this team is just so money when that happens.
yeah, we were thinking way ahead, right?
Yeah.
I love it.
I will say so. I know we're going to close out pretty soon, but just to finish the conversation that we were just having about the week, like the round 18 guys, I think it sounds like you are similar to me in that like you're not big on like going overboard on players because we're not like major player take guys. We're more like build strong lineups kind of guys. So that, but then there is part of me that's like, okay, since I never end up with more than like 20% of any one player, the time to do that, if you are going to load up on somebody, would be, I think, in that 18th round. Would you agree with that? Because those are when you can like just like the downside is not that much if you miss, but like if you hit on a Puka Nakua, a Kyron Williams, I mean, you're just so money. Like if you do draft, and there were people who had 40% of Kyron Williams. I don't know if anybody was that high on Puka Nakua, but like, would you agree like that if you are going to load up on somebody, it would be in those later, like around 17, 18. Those are the times when you just want to like go overboard if you are a guy who wants to like really load up on certain players?
Yeah, for sure, because it's not going to torpedo all of the stuff that you did from like the earlier rounds, and it's only going to like be a massive win. And then on the flip side of that, if it does, you're able to carry it through, you're able to have a position that would not have worked most of the time, but you're going to still have those bullets in your portfolio. It's also partially why I love like the zero RB structure is because what zero RB does is says within zero RB your ownership expectations for receivers, quarterbacks, and tight ends early is going to be higher than that standard 8%. And your ownership expectation for your running backs later is going to be much higher. So while eight Kyron would be 3% on the field, my ownership expectation for Kyron of last year would have been like an 8 or 10%, would have been much lower than what like the a 20% zero
Right.
RB fit would have been, but it's still like I still have a decent count of shares of them because of the way that like I'm working. And would I have missed on Puka? Maybe, but that would have been my version of a scroll down.
Right.
Would have been like I would have my 6 guys, and I'm just gonna stack one of them in there that I think it's like this awesome profile. So I think it does like give you some unique ways to like leverage the scroll down method, but also like elevate some ownerships too.
Yeah, absolutely. Works out pretty well.
Mm-hmm.
Before we close, I got to ask, do you know what happened in that play? I see that is you behind you playing baseball. That's a painting of yourself playing baseball. Do you remember what happened in that play?
I don't because I'm also probably my expect based on what I know. Me swinging a pitch that high, I probably yanked that thing down foul territory, right? Like where my bat is already. Like I definitely pulled that pitch foul. It's
Yeah.
also not a strike. I should not have been swinging at that,
Yeah.
but it's a beautiful picture. And yeah, I
I
love
just
it. I
love that.
still play softball with my friends, so that's
Oh, do
fun.
you really? What
Yeah.
position do you play?
So I before this year I'd always played in like a very competitive men's league. I played college baseball, so
Okay.
like me and my buddies all like super competitive. But this year I'm playing in like church league softball, and it's definitely a different switch. And but it's been a ton of fun. I pitch and I try to throw it super high up in the air and
Yeah.
have a ton of fun with that. But I don't walk anyone, so I take pride in that.
I am a fellow softball pitcher.
Uh huh.
My number one goal as a pitcher is just to not walk people. Like I'm just like I'm
Yeah.
not trying to. I mean, I get in grooves sometimes where I actually I a lifelong friend of mine is my catcher. He will start like if I'm pitching well, he'll start doing like giving me hand signals like throw this one short, throw this one a little
Mm-hmm.
long, throw this really high, whatever, or throw this outside, whatever. And I get in grooves sometimes where I can kind of like get my pitches where I want them to be. But like typically my goal is just I don't want to walk anybody. It's the most frustrating thing in the world walking somebody in slow pitch softball. So good for you, not walking
A
anybody.
hundred
That's
percent. Yeah. The guy last game was like, "You're a great pitcher. What are you doing up there? You're spinning." I'm like, "No, I'm just throwing it straight and trying to throw strikes."
right.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it's gonna have. I understand variance, and it's gonna have enough variance if I just throw it down the middle.
Yeah. Um, do you have the
Yeah.
12-foot rule? We have to peak between
We
6 and 12 feet in my league. Oh, you don't have a, oh, wow. Okay.
no, it just has to clear the batter's head, and like I think that I mean the league that I played in with the more like serious men's league did, but not the one I'm currently in. Um, I'm not too egregious with it. It's not that competitive of a league.
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah.
that was actually the first year I started pitching. Actually, my friend's mom had been a softball pitcher. Told him to give me the advice to throw the ball high. That's the biggest advice she had was just put a lot
Mm-hmm.
of arc on your pitch in slow pitch softball. So I was like, all right, that seems like good advice. Um, we'll finish, I guess, with this one question. See if you have an. Hey guys, who should I draft with pick 402 in Dynasty? McBride, Kincaid,
Ooh.
Zay Jones, or sorry, Zay Flowers, or Pittman, and then he adds on Tank, Devonta Smith, DJ Moore still on the board also. Ooh, that is. I don't think it'd be Kincaid for me because I think he's a little bit too dependent on situation. Um, that's really tough. I think that those are some really good options.
Well, I think
Um,
that so there's questions here. It's like, what kind of format of dynasty is it? Are we talking
yeah,
about tight end premium or not? Um, I don't. I think that within dynasty, you're looking for players that can really ascend in value. Like you're looking to turn one player into two players and build a wagon after 3 years. They're going to be like you're just churning
yeah,
dominance. And so when I'm looking at this list of players, like McBride absolutely can do that. He can be like the tight ends one or two for a while, but you may not get the the return on buying a tight end unless it's a tight end premium. I would take him over Kincaid. And then you're talking about those receivers, like that wherever you think that there's the most upside in there. Like Zay's got some pretty good upside. Pittman, I would say he's probably never going to be like a supreme wide receiver one.
right.
Tank Dell may be like CJ Stroud absolutely loves him, and they're both came in together super young. Devonta Smith, I have my questions about him being a superstar, like being a 1A. I think he's a 1B. And then DJ Moore, like maybe, but he's not. He's not. He's a little bit older than this player. I personally probably go Tank Dell, just because of the potential gains that you could get out of that asset.
I think I was gonna rank them. Tank Dell, McBride, Zay would be my top three probably. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I mean a lot of great choices there. Yeah, I think that was a good analysis right there of what we of this choice
I
here.
first came into this world thinking I was gonna like when I say this world, when I say the fantasy football world, it's like thinking I was gonna do dynasty stuff, but then I was like, nah, I like best ball a little bit better.
Yeah, best ball is just yeah, it is more fun. I am in one unlimited keeper league. Maybe I'll get into a dynasty league here or there, but yeah, I love best ball so much. Definitely the right way for me to play. Billy, this was such a fun conversation. Really enjoyed drafting with you, talking about this stuff with you. If other people want to find you, where can they find you? Where can they find anything you're working on?
Find me on Twitter, X at SportFizBJ. Also, my written stuff is now at SpikeWeek.com. It's been a ton of fun working with them and having like a community that's all kind of geared towards the same stuff. I tell my friends about me drafting teams in February and May for the next year, and they're like, "What are you doing, bro?" So it's good to have that world to be in that community and doing that. So yeah, find me on Twitter and at Spike Week.
All right, yeah, go follow Billy if you're not already following him on the X. Go check out his work at Spike Week. Thank you all very much for hanging out and drafting with us. This was a lot of fun, and I'll catch you next time. Go Wolves, of course. Got